All right, it's Hump Day here on Giant Bomb's Game of the Year 2016 Deliberation Podcast Extravaganza Palooza.
Yeah, make sure you're watching the video version.
Yes, there's confetti flying, the balloons in here,
and some humping.
Strobe lights.
Everybody's humping around.
It is a party.
There ain't nobody humping around.
Oh wow, there it goes.
Oh.
Now we got to start humping. Damn it!
It's an arguing party.
Everyone get up on the table.
It's a polite discussion party.
Yeah,
it's a
we can
polite
agree on
disagreement.
everything.
Yes,
it doesn't have to be an argument.
It's a consensus party.
Yes, there you go. It's democratically elected winners of the next 4 categories.
That's right.
Yeah,
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, it might not win the popular vote.
Loose consensus, let's say, that we reach as we go through these 4 categories for our third day of deliberations.
What you got?
The categories for today are most necessary remaster,
Or least strike through.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Best fake computer,
Mm-hmm.
formerly known as best command line. Please stop, and best surprise. So those are the 4 categories. If you've been with us up to today, you know what's going on, but be warned, there may be spoilers.
Here be spoilers.
Yes.
You will get soaked.
Yes. We will do our best to call them out, but they might just pop out. You never know.
How dare you spoil the plot of my favorite game?
Play stuff.
Pirate Alex.
Play the stuff you care about before you listen to this stuff.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
This category, I think we maybe skipped it last year, but it used to be called Least Necessary HD Remaster.
No, I think we definitely did it last year.
Yeah,
So
maybe we did do it.
I think it was that
Yeah.
Deadpool HD
That
update.
sounds right.
Yep. Right. Remember when we thought that remasters were just there to fill holes in the release schedule while they made real video games for these new consoles?
Yeah.
That still happens.
That did not come to pass. In fact, there are more remasters coming out than ever.
Yep.
But some of them are pretty good now.
Yeah,
I feel
I
like finally some of them are getting some actual work.
You want your favorite games on your current
Yeah.
consoles. A lot of people
Sure.
get rid
Yeah.
of their previous generation, so
Some
it's
of-
nice to be able to
Or
play
you
them
may have
again.
missed it. Yeah.
Some of the best games of all time were released last generation, and I don't really have any problem with
I don't either.
this stuff. So
Though I will say that I feel like some of the things on this list were added to this list when this category was still least necessary remaster.
You're not wrong. We
Yeah.
pretty much put every remaster we could think of on this list, and we will whittle it down appropriately. But for now, yeah, we're looking for the good ones, not the bad ones.
What you got?
Here's what I've got. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, those Dead Rising ports, the BioShock Collection, Batman Return to Arkham, Assassin's Creed The Ezio Collection, Skyrim Special Edition, uh-oh, Odin Sphere Life Trazier,
Close
Nailed
enough.
it.
Say it like
That'll
you're
do it.
German.
okay, Marvel Ultimate Alliance, did that have a subtitle?
It was a collection. It was 1 and 2.
Okay. Day of the Tentacle Remastered, and God Eater Resurrection.
I put that on there.
Really?
I did.
You?
Yeah, I added that.
No.
I was in the middle of typing it, and then he added it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So are we doing most necessary officially?
These
Yeah,
are,
yes.
Or it's not
Okay.
even. It's, I don't think.
best.
I don't think any of these are necessary.
No,
I think
no.
it's more
It's
that
more
like
just kind of which
best.
ones. What are the best
Which one
ones?
improved the game the most?
That's how I like to think of it as.
What was most beneficial?
Was there no Naughty Dog remaster this year? No
Not
Uncharted
this
or
year.
Last of Us?
No, Nathan Drake Collection was last year.
And Last of Us was also...
No, all they did were those
Last of Us was
pro updates.
2 years ago.
So Ratchet and Clank. That is that a remaster? or
we
is it a
almost,
reboot?
I think we
It's a
always
reboot.
started to put it on
Okay.
this list, but yeah, it's like kind of more of a remake.
Yeah, like I almost
right?
just wrote Assault Suit Lenos here, but that's more of a remake than
Yeah.
than a
Yeah, like,
remaster.
Like Ratchet and Clank is a different game.
The Ratchet,
Yeah.
is it different enough to not
That's
be?
all.
Yes.
That's all
Yeah,
new code.
it is.
Like,
It's
yeah.
using a
By-
lot of the same stuff, but like it feels very different.
Assault
same
Suit Lenos
areas
is
and-
closer to being like the Genesis game, but it's still, I feel like it's different enough that it doesn't necessarily fit here.
But by all accounts, that Ratchet reboot is like one of the best Ratchet games in years.
Great.
Oh, yeah.
It's
right?
really, really
but,
great.
But
by
it's,
far.
I think it's more of a remake than
Yeah.
what we're talking
Yeah,
about
it's not.
here.
It's not a just full on graphics update. There's more going on under the hood there.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Let's look at what didn't add anything. Really.
Well, the Dead Rising ports
Yes,
are
that's
just
the first thing I
are
thought of.
just like higher frame rate versions of
Yeah.
the old games, right?
I think they added a little bit of save system stuff to Dead
Are you
Rising
sure?
1 because I think there weren't multiple save slots in the first one.
I think you
and
might
now
be
there
right.
are 3.
I think you might be right. I think
Yeah.
Do we need to rename this category? Because again, I think necessary is a bad word.
It's
So we call it
mostly,
best.
it's mostly just a play on what it used to be called.
Yeah.
So, like, sure.
So about just best remaster.
Yeah.
All right.
Most welcome remaster.
It's still struck through.
Well, that's still kind of subjective, though. Either way, whatever.
So Dead Rising ports are off.
I think
Yeah.
those are not
Yep.
gonna. That's
Yep.
not gonna hang here at all.
I definitely think we take Skyrim off of here.
Yep.
You think?
What did that add? Anything?
It crashed.
Well, okay,
some
yes,
fun
it's-
new crashes and
that was in the
it's got-
original.
yeah, it
it's
had
got
mod
plenty
support.
of bugs.
It wasn't just the buggy Skyrim that you knew. It had a whole new kind of bugginess to it, especially
Okay.
in some of the console versions.
The-
from what I saw.
To their credit, they did a lot to the graphics in that thing.
Yeah.
Like it's significantly enhanced.
But still.
it's a nice looking game that
Yeah.
like I said, it's like straight up locked up.
Yeah, the bugs are hard to argue with. Let's
Also, that game is still so recent that I don't like.
I mean, it's about as recent as like half these games. It's like 5 years old.
Yeah.
I still think it goes.
Probably.
It's like I said. It's
Let's maybe leave it for just the mod support and the amount of stuff they did with the graphics and stuff they did on the PC. Like they made it 64-bit on the PC, so it can handle like way
cool.
crazier mods. Like have way more shit going on at one time.
yeah,
and stuff like that.
Like again, like playing it and having it crash a bunch.
Yeah,
for
it's hard to argue
what-
around the bugs.
Yeah,
but let's just potentially put it up for elimination and see what else we come up with
I
here.
think Marvel we can take
Marvel
off.
was like
Marvel,
a
those
disaster.
are- yeah, those are
right?
terrible.
Those are really bad
those are-
ports.
Did they ever fix it?
I want to say that. Well, there was talk about fixing that, and I bounced so hard off of it, I didn't even follow up on it.
Okay,
Like they might be okay now. I don't know.
and it was like
But-
missing DLC in addition
missing
to
DLC and
like DLC that they said was supposed to be.
One
in
of them
there.
was completely unplayable on
Yeah,
PC.
those are-
that
those are real
sounds
fucked
like
up.
a giant.
Those are
mess.
real fucked up.
That was some grody
That's
stuff.
definitely going.
That Ezio collection is like
Not great.
rough.
The
Yeah.
different
Oh,
character
really?
models and
Some of it
Yeah.
looks better for sure. Like some of the environmental stuff definitely looks better, but like, yeah, they did some funky things with some of the character models.
I mean, some of those
and
comparisons, like that
animations.
one fucking googly-eyed dude.
Yeah.
Like apparently that was a bug in the existing game.
Right.
That was not something that got added in this.
But there was some like animation stuff that looked really fucked up in a way that I don't remember that game ever looking.
Yeah. All right. I'm fine to take that off. The same team or the same developer also did the remaster for the Batman stuff.
which I wholly did not feel was necessary.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have argued with just a straight HD update of that first game. I don't necessarily think the second one needed it.
Weren't there some? I saw some comparison stuff that made the remaster stuff look worse.
It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it seems sporadic. There are specific scenes you can point to that absolutely look worse. It seems like on the whole that thing is probably a net improvement. But
Really?
yeah, there is. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Like
don't know.
they like redid and added a bunch of textures and stuff. I mean, I'm the kind of fucking nerd that sits there and looks at the Digital Foundry side by side shit on a fairly regular basis.
But if I had played
And
the
they-
original games on the PC, is there much?
I think
change?
they flat out came out and said like you're probably still better off playing this on PC. Well, I mean, I don't know. They added a lot of texture work and like detail work to a lot of stuff, but then there were scenes where like the original had like God rays and like particle shit floating in the air, and like all that stuff was just ripped out of the remaster. So like there are definitely spots that are pretty rough.
That
Gross.
sucks.
Kill it.
Also, the situation on the PS4 Pro is just absurd because when you go to a Pro, City runs at 60 frames a second and Asylum still runs at 30. Like they uncapped one of them on the Pro, but not the other one.
Yo, cut that game from this
Like
list.
it's kind of a mess as much as they did do some work to it.
Not to jump ahead, but I honestly think there's really only 3 on this list that actually make sense.
Okay.
I think it's Twilight Princess, I think it's Odin Sphere, and I think it's Day of the Tentacle.
Okay.
Probably the right way to go.
I'm a strong proponent for Odin Sphere.
Like, if anyone wants to go hard for Bioshock,
No,
I played that
Bioshock-
collection. It didn't seem great.
There's like a little museum for the first
I think
one.
that
There's
museum's
some sound
cool.
bites. I mean, it's a very small thing.
It's not
though.
huge, but like the fact that they. So I don't know if you guys haven't seen it. There's a museum mode in that Bioshock collection that is a new space. It looks like a museum that they built.
It's like one little room though.
Oh, it's pretty big.
In the first one,
Yeah, I don't know, maybe you didn't explore the whole thing. Like it's
I mean,
definitely
there's some cool concept art
definitely
and
more
like
than-
models of characters and stuff. But
the coolest thing for me is that they went back and got a bunch of like enemy models and character models that they ended up cutting
Oh, that's cool.
from all stages of production. So there's a bunch of like real basic looking shit in there, and then like later game, like closer to ship.
Is it
like
a menu option or is it?
It's,
in-
it's just right on the menu option. You just boot it up and go look at it. But like, yeah, seeing stuff that was like half finished or that they had finished and then thought was bad and cut out, like being able to walk around and look at it and see it animating and stuff is really cool. And like, they did a lot of commentary for that thing. I think like didn't Ken Levine do
Little sound
commentaries
bites
for?
and stuff for I think 1 and Infinite.
I think that's right.
Obviously, he wasn't involved with 2.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I'm not saying it should necessarily be top 3 because they didn't do anything graphically to it. I don't think.
there's frame rate stuff they add to it, but
They
those
launched
are,
with some audio stuff that I think they fixed.
Yeah, the PC version was
but
pretty
yeah.
rough when it rolled out, but
Yeah.
it sounds like they fixed all that stuff pretty quickly.
So what I will say about God Eater Resurrection, like I actually do feel kind of strongly that this is a really good remaster. This was originally on the PSP, updated the visuals. Obviously, the PC port is fantastic, 60 frames per second. But they also added a bunch of the features and like weapon types that they found in 2 and added them to the original game here, making it arguably the better game.
I would probably
of the
take
2.
bottom 3 on this list: Odin Sphere, Day of the Tentacle, God Eater.
I like the Twilight Princess stuff.
Nah.
You play it?
Yeah, I played Twilight Princess.
The remaster?
No,
It
no, I
it
didn't.
looks a lot
I
better.
watched you play it, and I just don't care. Like that's not a
made-
not a good Zelda game. at this
Oh
point,
man, I like it
Like,
more after playing this one. Like,
yeah.
I do think the update work they did on it is significant.
yeah, it's based on the GameCube version. It's got the flipped world, and I think a lot of people played with the Wii controller initially, since it was a Wii launch game. It's really nice to have a reason to go back to playing with the controller. You can do the gamepad stuff with the inventory management. They upped the wallet size.
Can you just straight up play it with a Pro Controller?
Yes, I did most of it. Yeah,
Man.
a lot of it I would have the gamepad in front of me for like inventory stuff, but playing with
But
the
specifically,
Pro
there is
controller,
zero required waggle.
there was no motion whatsoever.
I-
No waggle.
I have zero interest in ever playing Twilight Princess, but like hearing that they made it so you can just play with a button instead of like swinging the
I would
remote.
say
Yeah.
it's the GameCube version. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with the flip world and the buttons. Yeah.
Well, it's the Wii one was the one with the flip world.
That kind of brings me
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
That brings me around to having it on this list. Just hearing that they fixed the controls.
I would also say it's the one with the wolf shit, and it's not.
It's
not a
look.
cool
They
game.
toned that stuff down because they normally had to get 16 of those light tiers in
Yeah.
every area. Now you need to get 12, so they made that a little more streamlined. Like there's a little less bullshit in there, with the wallet size and the
Yeah.
wolf
Yeah.
tiers and stuff.
It's absolutely one of my least favorite Zelda games. Like I'm not going to sit here and defend Twilight Princess as a great game that got this very deserving remaster. But for that game and what they did to it, I feel like it does make meaningful improvements.
Yeah,
and I liked it, at least what I played of it, like certainly better than I did when I tried to play that game the first time.
It improved my overall thoughts of Twilight Princess after playing through this one.
I think that's significant.
So what's the
fair
case for
case.
Day of the Tentacle? Because I feel like that would be a game that's a game that I can very easily play by taking my original CD and a copy of Scum VM.
But it's so much better. Like they made a museum archival quality version of Day of the Tentacle. Like
Yeah.
they went back and got all those DAT tapes
Right.
of all the voiceover because
Oh, wow.
that stuff sounded terrible in the original.
Yep.
Like super low sample rate and just shitty, 90s compressed audio quality.
Mm-hmm.
They dug all those DAT tapes out of like the LucasArts archive up in the North Bay.
Yeah.
They put a
and,
not
and went back and resampled or redigitized everything.
Yeah.
Like super clean quality audio. Like they redid all the art in the game. You can do the whole switch
Right.
back and forth. Like
which
it's-
looks pretty good.
it looks
does.
really good.
and they made it so you can control it with a controller.
Yeah,
right?
the controller interface stuff is good. You can blow the art up to full screen rather than having all the verbs at the bottom. They came up with a good like cursor based
which
solution
actually
for the
works.
interface, so you can play it full screen now.
All right.
That sounds like a lot of work.
yeah, they definitely put some serious effort into that
That's,
thing.
that's the way to do it.
It's like one of the most loving restorations of a game I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, and I love that game. Like
I played through the whole thing again.
yeah.
Once they did the remaster.
So I played like the first 20 minutes of it, and then for whatever reason, I think it's because I play that game still like on occasion. Like it hadn't been like since 93 or whenever it was that I'd played it. So maybe it was just a thing of like, it's still Day of the
I
Tentacle.
mean, that's for me. Like I loved old adventure games, but I had never played that game.
Okay,
so
yeah.
for me, like playing it for the first time, it was like, oh my god!
what do you think?
I
It's a
can
great game,
finally,
right?
I can finally experience this game that is this fucking massive cult classic, but in like a really nice modern
Way
context.
better than all that King's
you get
Quest
that
stuff.
left-handed
Shut up.
hammer. Yeah,
damn
way better than all that Sierra shit.
I think that one
Trash.
should absolutely be on here.
Yeah, totally. I think that.
How do you guys feel
wins,
about
but-
Zelda, Odin Sphere, and Day of the Tentacle.
That seems like the
I think that's a
list
great
to me.
trio.
Oh, so that Odin Sphere one I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that was like lovingly recrafted
Yeah.
as well.
And improved.
So many, like quality of life improvements, like really good game to play now.
I just
the
wanna-
inventory management system is so much more
I just wanna
streamlined.
shout out-
They added new skills and stuff to some of the new like individual skills. It plays. Oh,
It looks so
really
good.
It's really good.
I just want
Yes.
to shout out one HD remaster that we forgot that I don't think should be in the top 3, but I just want to mention it. They did decent work on that Gravity Rush remaster that came out on PS4.
Yeah, yeah.
That
they
game
did.
is not very good, and it seems like Gravity Rush 2 is going to eat its lunch, so that's fine. But I'm just saying, like, taking that Vita game, putting it on PS4, they did a good job of making that look like it belonged on that system.
as good as they could.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people missed out on the first Gravity Rush because it was on PSP.
It's not
There's
a
some
great
neat-
game.
No, it's not terrible.
It's
but
a cool mechanic.
Yeah.
As far as Vita exclusive games back then, it was one of the better ones.
Of the 5 that
There's a standout.
exist,
Yes, yes.
that is one of the better ones, I'm sure.
Yes.
Okay, that sounds like a
that,
good list to me.
That 3 makes sense.
All right,
Now, what wins?
taking off BioShock and Skyrim.
Day of the Tentacle sounds real strong.
That's-
Yeah, but-
that's-
real
I
strong.
As much as
that's-
I like Zelda, that's a strong argument for Day of the Tentacle.
Whenever I feel like going back to one of those games, it always scares me how much I think I'm going to have to do with fiddling with an inventory. So
sure.
hearing about like controller mapping and dragging and dropping and just those kinds of quality of life improvements makes me actually think about playing that game. I haven't played that game, but that seems cool.
They made it so you could play it on a couch with a controller very easily.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And there's commentary, which is
Yeah, they added commentary
You know,
and
hit or
stuff.
miss if you like that stuff.
Yeah.
But it
I-
is in
and-
there.
I mean, high quality recordings of the voice of Les Nessman
yes,
from WKRP
That
is
stuff is-
enough to take this category.
And
Yeah.
like I will admit I'm a little bit swayed by this, but at the same time I almost think it's also an argument for this that the stuff Double Fine is doing on their YouTube channel is still like second to none among small or even any developers really. Because like they've still got 2-player productions like in-house shooting fucking everything they do. So there are all these interviews and behind the scenes videos on their channel of them like going up to LucasArts and like digging through old boxes of DAT tapes and old concept art. Like they reauthored all the backgrounds and stuff in this off of the original like painted concept art, not the original
It looks good.
pixelated graphics.
Yeah.
Like, like just see, but being able to see that behind the scenes effort, you know, like seeing them dig into these like 20-year-old archives to get all that stuff.
They
Like
should have
it's
put
just-
that in the game. They should have put
it would be nice if it were in the
documentary
game, but
in
it's
there
all
somewhere,
on
but-
their YouTube channel. It's super easy to find.
I would just like to say to Jason's points about Odin Sphere, I think this is actually a closer second than maybe some of these in those other categories. Like the
It would
work
be
they
my
put
pick,
into
yeah.
that
Yeah.
remaster is really strong.
And
that sounds awesome.
Especially because the original version of that game like ran poorly.
Yes.
Like just having a high res version of it that is also smooth finally.
It looks like the game they conceptualized versus the thing that people got initially, which was not a bad game, but it just didn't have, you know, the performance that people wanted.
Yeah.
And just everything they did quality of life wise on that thing is great.
Yeah.
It's definitely a
it's
standout.
impressive.
Like it's not a simple port or anything like that. You know, we see so many remasters of games that just came out just like a few years ago, but this is an
Yeah,
old
but
classic that
I'm also
had a lot of work done to it.
I'm also totally down for Day of Tentacle winning this.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't do ordered lists, but I moved Odin Sphere up to second behind
That's
Day of
fair.
Tentacle.
I think that's fair.
Just for you. All right.
Finally, Day of the Tentacle gets its due.
Yeah, finally, people will notice this game.
25 years later.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Now,
It's,
where's Sam and Max hit the road?
okay.
Where's Zach McCracken and the alien mind benders? Let's get down to the fucking real work here. We got to go to Mars.
They're working on full
There's
throttle.
Indiana
right now.
Jones.
Full throttle. Yeah.
I want an HD remaster of specifically the NES version of Maniac Mansion.
I mean, unfortunately, I think
Where's the dig?
Tim Schafer's only going to go out of his way to get the stuff he made.
Yeah.
So the rest of that LucasArts stuff is twisting in the wind.
Yeah.
But who knows though? Maybe
It's sitting in a damp basement in Disney headquarters somewhere.
maybe they will start getting some of that other stuff.
To be fair, the dig was always twisting in the wind.
Yeah.
Aha!
That's fair.
It's Spielberg, isn't it?
I mean, yes, like his name was all over it when it came out, but like I don't know how much he actually had. to do
Creator
with it.
Boomblocks?
Yes.
Yes,
created
yes,
all
Wow.
that.
This is his own.
the very same.
I like how this turned out.
Tell me what you know about Loom.
Positive spin on remasters.
Loom could use some love.
I like Loom.
yeah.
That's a cool
I'll
game.
loom you.
I don't know that I would ever go back and touch Loom ever again, but at the time, I'm going,
Fucking
I feel-
Loom was kind of cool.
I feel like Loom
alright.
could use like a remaster because going back, it's one of the. Is it even Scum?
It's
I
maybe
think
it
it's
was
pre.
earlier. It was definitely one of the older ones.
Yeah.
It's one of the few LucasArts games I played. All right, there you go. Day of the Tentacle Remastered is the best remaster of the year with Odin Sphere, Life
There you go. Nice.
Trouser.
and Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD runners up. Okay, best fake computer.
So let's talk about this category.
Which, as I said, it started as best command line, and then we started finding games that didn't quite have command lines in them, but still had cool computer in a computer interface stuff.
I still wish we called this best computer game.
It was a year for typing things on a keyboard into a prompt.
It was a year for fake, or in some cases,
Or a
like
chat window,
kind of real bash prompts in games.
Yeah. Which was fun.
Yeah, more of that, please. They did a lot of good stuff with that this year. See, Jeff is on brand with the spelling of Hackmud.
Making sure that H is lowercase.
Making sure it's also impossible to
Also
find using a
impossible
search.
to find on Steam.
Are the spaces there
Yeah.
in the search?
Oh,
Fucking
that's
sucks.
That's not
Wow.
good. That's not.
I also think that they're not actually letters. They're
Yeah.
like other weird Unicode things that just look
sure.
like letters.
That seems like something that game would do.
Yeah.
That game's
Like
weird.
they deliberately made it hard to find on Steam, which is for what that game is. Anyway.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Best fake computers include Hackmud, Event Zero, Quadrilateral Cowboy, Super Hot, Pony Island, and the Turing Test.
So the Turing test has a bit in it where you go up to a computer and you're trying to talk or type in and access like data logs and stuff, and you begin to be able to type, but then slowly takes over your keyboard commands. So no matter what you type, it does that like I suck
Yeah,
kind of thing, which it was a fun bit.
Okay.
Like it does like a bit of like back and forth with the AI.
Where
and
you
then-
start out typing what
Yes.
you want to type, and then it starts taking over.
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
That's sort of super hot in a way.
But that's better than Super Hot.
So like that was fun. Super Hot's bit I really enjoyed at the time.
Which part?
The bit where you're like you can't escape when you're, because I was typing in on a keyboard and that stuff was fun.
Yeah,
Like, I could see it being less fun if you're playing with a controller.
So I played it on. So I played through the entirety of Super Hot since the last time you guys talked about Super Hot on Game of the Year podcasts 2 days ago. I don't love the typing stuff in that game.
I think it's
feel
like
great.
funny, and
I don't think it's fun.
I think it fits the framing, but-
it serves the storytelling. well.
I think like their whole interface, I think is really good.
Like
I
the
would
whole
say
menu
I would
system.
say
whole
like the
mouse-driven text interface,
Oh, I just
like
use
all
the
that
keyboard
stuff.
for all that stuff.
Yeah.
But like the directory structure stuff and being able to run like little basic games
Yeah.
and shit like that is cool.
Playing Tree Dude,
Yeah, Tree Dude is cool. All the ASCII art in that game
best
is cool.
new character, Tree Dude.
Specifically, the chat stuff is not great in that though. 'Cause,
I liked it.
Well, the way
I
it
enjoyed
works
it.
doesn't work. Like it doesn't work well. So like, you never get to type anything you want at all. Like it always is just filling in what it wants you to say as you type, which like serves the story, and like that's not a huge deal.
So did you go back to the chat after finishing the game?
The IRC client thing? No, I didn't. All right, maybe I'll go check that stuff out. This is a weird point, but like every key, like it wants you to hit keys to fill in what it wants you to say, but every like keystroke that you do fills in like 4 or 5 characters. Like it just feels weirdly mushy. It doesn't even feel like you're typing
See,
anything.
I think that makes it feel like movie hacking, where it's like you are just typing on the keyboard at one speed and it's going, and I
guess.
actually think that's really awesome.
Like you can even just move the mouse around and it'll fill in. Like any input it takes from you will fill in that text, and that feels weird.
I don't have a problem with that.
I don't know. I'm not saying we should take it off necessarily.
Because I feel like Super Hot is why this category came to be.
For me,
No, I was definitely.
I think so much of that stuff is so good.
I was definitely thinking more about like Hackmud and Quadrilateral.
Yeah, Cowboy was the one that
when we came up with this.
struck me.
Event Zero was the one I wanted.
Yeah,
on.
that's the thing. There are a lot of games out this year where you do real typing that does actual things.
And
So,
I
yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, so tell me about Pony Island, because that's the one I feel like I'm least familiar with here.
Pony Island actually does some of the same type stuff where, but you know,
But you were locked into a computer battle with fucking Satan.
yeah, you are
which is
you are
awesome.
having a computer fight with Satan, and then it's all about kind of hacking and subverting computers. Like it's not all text prompt stuff. A lot of it is graphical interfaces and stuff. But
There's like
they're-
weird logic puzzles in there, right?
yeah, and it got
So okay,
actually kind of hard.
So that's in the top 3 then.
I
I mean, you're hacking with Satan. That's top 3.
Satan is trying to out hack you
In an arcade.
in an
machine.
arcade. You are trapped in an arcade cabinet.
You're doing the devil went down to Georgia, but with hacking.
yeah, kind of.
You get a golden keyboard at the end.
Nice.
Maybe, I don't know. I couldn't finish it. It was hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also didn't finish it.
Honorable mention, I'll say, because I don't think any of us played it, was Duskers, which was another.
Oh, yeah.
Duskers, right?
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
I mean, does it?
But I didn't
think
play.
it-
I didn't play it.
Okay.
Austin
think
played
Austin
it.
covered
You didn't
that
play
one,
it,
right?
I didn't play Duskers, no.
But yeah, that was another just like
Duskers had some cool ideas. I don't think it's a very slow game, and I didn't feel like I was getting a whole lot out of it necessarily. Like I tried it, and I just didn't click for me. I think it's doing some of the things we're talking about here, but I don't necessarily love the way it did it. That's just my feeling.
Event Zero has a full-on AI that you type to with full-on like Dr. Sfezzo.
Okay.
How are you doing? I'm doing well.
Yeah, you type English into that game.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it responds.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
you have
you-
conversations more or less.
Yeah, and you have to parse out and puzzle solve using that, which is a lot of fun.
That
when
sounds
it works.
cool.
It is very cool, actually.
Yeah.
And
You can ask it questions.
yeah, it does a whole thing. I mean, the only parts where it falls down is where some of that stuff always falls down is when you're trying to like, for lack of a better word, dictionary attack
Right.
its vocabulary to see what it will respond
Like
to.
when it's just not up to the task of figuring out what to say.
Yeah, it has limits.
Yeah, and like it tries to do things to give you answers that what's the word, like kind of ambivalent, like I don't know what you're saying, so I have to give you an answer that doesn't make me sound stupid.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it works really well, and it's actually fun to interface with that AI, and that AI is pretty well realized.
Yeah, and I would also say like typing to a computer, even while I knew that like my responses wouldn't necessarily like the programming of this game is not necessarily complex enough to read my tone and things. I would still write in such a way that I was trying to not anger the AI.
Right.
It totally matters, though.
Yeah.
Like in the gameplay, if you piss off the AI, has
Ramifications.
Yeah.
Huh.
And also there is like a light bit of kind of hacking, like not a ton, but
That all sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
it's
that does.
very cool, and they actually make the default controls, which I wound up changing for the game. So that you move forward by pushing left or right mouse button, so that anytime you're near a computer screen, the keyboard's fully functional. So you don't have to use
that's cool.
WASD to move around. So as soon as you get near a computer screen, you could just start typing. You don't have to even click on the screen.
Oh, wow.
You're just near it and typing. Because that's how you open doors and turn on lights as well. You're doing input commands.
Yeah, so it's a 3D world, but you're going up to terminals, and that's how you're solving puzzles and
Okay.
stuff. And also, the terminals look awesome.
That
They
sounds.
look like old computers, but it's in the future, so it's like that future old.
You guys are really making me want to play this.
It's pretty rad.
It's a neat thing.
There's since we'll be talking about spoilers here, there's a really great moment in the game where you're trapped outside the station and like running out of oxygen, like yelling at the computer to let you in.
It's totally a open the pod bay doors how.
And you're just fucking typing like all caps, like
Yeah.
open the fucking door as
Yeah.
shit's going in.
Wow.
And it's just like, I don't know if I can trust you anymore. Like
Man.
I died out there.
That
I don't-
sounds
like,
kind
of
I did
awesome.
too,
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Huh. That sounds like a strong contender.
All right.
Yeah.
I think Hack Mud should be on this
Yeah,
list.
totally,
It's,
totally.
that game is insane.
Like, I feel like that
It's got a clipboard section.
should win this.
Copy
Yeah,
and paste shit.
right.
Quadrilateral Cowboy's got to be on here.
All right.
Dude,
Yeah, you're right.
Talk about it, because I kept meaning to play. I know Dan's shaking his head over there. He fucking hates that game.
I kind of hate all the games on this list except for Super Hot.
the Quadrilateral Cowboy, it's retro technology, it's command lines as puzzles. Like it's puzzles built around kind of figuring out the command systems and learning how to navigate the environments and pull off the heists while, inputting what is basically code.
Is that what you're always doing? Ultimately, trying to steal stuff?
Yeah,
I didn't.
it's-
I didn't know that.
There are jobs going on. Now,
Okay,
whether they
yeah.
are full-on heists or if they are other kind of, but you're generally, yes.
You're a cyber thief, is what
yes,
you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're opening doors, you're subverting laser grids, and kind
Okay.
of getting around systems,
Okay.
And it's-
and typing to do all of it.
And in some places, it is a little clunky, but I think it's like kind of purposely clunky because the tech that they're using is very specifically old, and I think the way they go about that stuff is pretty clever and interesting.
It's a really neat game. It's
Yeah.
really cool. It's really cool.
All right, that also sounds really strong.
I personally prefer Super Hot, but with the way we're skewing this category and what we're actually trying to reward here, I don't think Super Hot stays.
Yeah, I think the top 3 games on this list
Yeah.
feel like the strongest.
those seem like the ones that accomplish the most with their like computer in a computer I mean, sort
There's
of
also
framework.
Hacknet DLC that is still supposed to technically be out later this year,
Right.
But it has not surfaced, so
Yeah.
I don't know if Hacknet Labyrinths will make it out the door. But
Shame,
but
because this
Hacknet,
could definitely be Hacknet presents best
I mean, it
Yeah.
still could be.
fake computer.
right.
I'm-
I will say I'm looking forward to playing more Hacknet when that thing comes out.
And while I'm way into the idea of hacking with Satan, I'm not sure if Pony Island is
yeah,
top three.
Pony Island is really neat.
You should play that
you should-
game.
you should
I will.
check- you should check
I will
it out.
totally check that out.
It seems like it would be up your alley.
But yeah, that thing gets hard in a way that I did not want to go back to.
I felt real dumb walking away from Pony Island because it was like stuff that's like all bright and colorful, like ponies and all. Like
Right.
like this logic puzzle should be totally easy.
Yeah.
Like shit, I'm a goddamn idiot.
I mean, whatever. We both beat the witness. Like, it's not like we couldn't suss that stuff out.
Yeah.
But it's not something you can just breezily kind of sail through to, because what you really want to see in that game is just what crazy satanic shit
Yeah.
they shove into
Yes.
this arcade game. So when you hit those puzzles and they're not something you can just get like that, like it kind of kills the momentum.
Yeah.
you're right.
have
Also,
you-
I wish I was smarter.
Have you played Event Zero, Dan?
No, I didn't.
You should try it. I think you might like it.
Yeah, that's the one I haven't seen, and the thing you're talking, like the open the pod bay doors thing, sounds all right. I don't enjoy the like command line type stuff. As someone who didn't grow up hacking or dealing with command lines or
I
anything,
don't know that any of us grew up hacking.
No,
this.
or you spend more time dealing with old computer.
Yeah.
command
I
line
grew
stuff.
up fucking playing Oregon Trail on a green screen computer. Like, that's
Yeah.
probably the closest I got. But
Yeah, but like outside of like launching, C::Doom or whatever, like I just have no nostalgia for this stuff. And so playing something like Quadrilateral Cowboy, like to open a door to type in this thing, it just feels like this weird nostalgia thing. And it feels more annoying than an actual gameplay thing. And I thought that game sucked ass. I like the idea of like something like Pony Island that actually has kind of a gimmick and a feel to it and everything. Super Hot had its own thing going on, but like Hack Mud looked like the most boring shit I've seen all year, and Quadrilateral Cowboy I thought was terrible.
yeah,
So-
I think I do think Quad Cowboy goes beyond just the nostalgia thing. I think yes, you do have to have a little bit of reverence for that idea of typing into those kinds of systems, but like the way they build the puzzles around that stuff, I think is pretty clever, and like the way they make that stuff accessible. Because, like, I'm not a programmer. I don't really understand, like, what a lot of this shit means or does, but, like, I was able to understand the systems in that game, and I enjoyed the way they laid out the levels around that stuff.
The way they have you write code in Cowboy, I think, like, works.
Yes.
Like, that it's accessible in, let's say, a way that Hackmud is fucking not.
Right.
Hackmud is not, like, some nostalgia trip. Hackmud is fucking real.
Right.
Hackmud is happening. We are all Hackmud. Hackmud is a fucking nightmare, but I can't write JavaScript, so Hackmud is amazing.
That's
And I felt like I learned a thing or two over the course of its tutorial, but it is definitely a thing that, like, when you kind of get out of that stuff, you're like, oh shit, I am not nearly good enough for any of this. That said, I still think Hackmud's amazing.
I kind of want it to win this, even though I'm with you on everything you just said, and I don't know how deep I could ever get into that thing.
I haven't played any
the
Hack
things
Mud,
that
but I
it
feel like
does
I
and is
should.
capable of doing are just like so far beyond anything else that we've talked about here.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Like Hackmud has you writing like real scripts that then
It all sounds amazing.
and you can like the subterfuge and the way you fuck over other players and all that other stuff.
Yeah, the multiplayer aspect of that
yeah.
game seems like insane. Like,
Yeah.
because you can actually, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. You can actually like hack other players and steal their in-game currency.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it's just like someone wrote scripts that were very close in name to the in-game real scripts. So if you just happen to type them wrong or run a script that you don't check the security on that someone sends you or something like that, you might just get all your shit stolen.
Like it might just empty your bank account into theirs.
Yeah.
like a real player or an
Yeah.
in-game player?
Yeah, real
real
players.
player.
It's all multiplayer.
Like the whole tutorial is kind of an offline thing that kind of gets you used to the core concepts of what you're doing. But like there are GitHub repos full of code you can use in Hackmud.
Like
It's
what was
fucking
the?
scary.
Wait, can you actually mess up your computer?
No.
Okay.
It's all self-contained
all
in
in
the
the
game.
game.
But you have
Or can you?
I don't know.
But you have an in-game like profile and bank account and stuff. Like you have assets in
Right.
the game that can be lost or stolen or whatever.
Yeah, like and new assets get deposited into the game. Like last time I really checked in on it, there were assets that get dropped into the game on a regular basis. Someone had written a script that automated a lot of the hacking in a way that they were just immediately getting all that stuff faster than any human player could.
Maybe like a clicker kind of.
And didn't you say
Nah.
didn't you say the player that did that had possessed something like a third of the total wealth in Hackmud or something?
At some time, like the developer of it was out there kind of saying some of that stuff on the Steam updates
crazy.
and stuff. But yeah, that Hackmud is the thing that I wish that I could play super well, because it would mean that I was a smarter person and could be a web developer.
I mean, it sounds like that is the purest distillation of what we are talking about here as far as these games go. Like, Event Zero has some very cool like interaction with AI stuff. Like, Quadrilogue Cowboy has some very clever puzzles built around that tech stuff. But like, Hackmud seems like the poster child for what we're doing
in some
here.
ways. And like, who knows what will come in the years following this one. But in some ways, it feels like the ultimate realization of where a lot of this genre with like Hacknet and some of this other stuff has been going.
That's what it is for me. And I should probably mention that I play Dota once in a while with the developer of this game. Like, I know him on a personal basis, but
disqualified.
but yeah, like what you're saying, like it's like the artifice of stuff like Hacknet and like movie hacking that you talk about. Like, this game makes it real. Like, this game actually lets you really do that
Too
stuff.
real though, or is it?
That's the thing.
It's a little too
I think
real
the
for
big-
there's a reason why it's not the easiest thing in the world to find on Steam.
The big argument against it, is totally that it's like just kind of over the heads of probably everybody in this room.
But
and
I will
most
say
people.
that, like, even, like, as someone who was never going to be like a player in the online world of it in a way that I felt was meaningful, like the tutorial aspect of it, which has a bit of a story to it and all this other stuff, I think is really satisfying.
Okay.
Like, watching you play it on UPF that one day was enough to convince me, like, this thing is crazy deep. And has some really wild stuff going on.
And it's fun, and like, again, I kind of felt like I was learning a little bit along the way. It's this thing that, like, maybe if I stuck with it, maybe if I actually cracked book here and there, some introduction to programming type stuff, maybe I could figure some of this stuff out.
Does it have its own language? What's it using? Is it like Linux based?
It's like a JavaScript-esque language.
It's like it's a dialect of JavaScript.
Yeah, sure.
It's the Shanghaiese of JavaScript.
It's intoned.
Yes.
All right, so Hackmud,
I think Hackmud
Sure.
wins this.
I'm cool with that.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
best real computer.
And who knows? Satan could be like one of those other players out there.
that's actually
It's true.
probable
Yeah.
at this point.
Okay.
You never know.
I feel better about that then.
Damn it. I can't type. Hackmud is our best fake computer. It's almost a real computer, it seems. With Event Zero and Quadrilateral Cowboy also being good fake computers.
Yeah.
Fake computer.
All right, that's 2 categories down for day 3. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back with the other 2. All right, it is time for the 3rd category of day 3. Please stop.
Knock that shit off.
Which, yeah, totally.
Cut it out,
Which
y'all.
I think it was called worst trend at one point in history.
Yeah,
I think there was an exclamation point at the end.
It was called "Check Yourself Before You
Riggedy
Wreck Yourself."
Yes.
Yeah,
It's a little wordy.
This thing has been through a number of
This
incarnations.
was a merging of worst trend
Yes.
and the check yourself and like I forget how we got here. Maybe this is the last year we do this and we find another way to rename it or
Maybe.
something. But I guess
I feel like it's, please stop is pretty illustrative of, hey, fucking stop.
Yeah.
Don't do these things. These are bad things for the business and culture of video games. So
Like what?
here's what we got on the list. As of now, the return of bad PC ports.
Did they go away? I don't know.
They did.
Yeah,
no,
they
we
got-
totally,
there
there
was
was
a while
there was a
there.
year. There was a year
was a
where
best
like
trend.
They
like
spiked
the best
again.
trend, our best trend was like good PC ports.
Huh. All right.
And then they forgot. Badly communicating with your fan base. Solemn pop song covers adding shitty fake gravitas to video game trailers.
/no.
Publishers not providing early review copies. Announcing your games for Q4 and pushing them into Q1. Farting out early access VR shooting galleries. Complaining about VR when you ain't even tried that shit. Playing Clash Royale.
please, you guys.
Stop.
Oh, I stopped.
Okay,
It was great.
I'm back.
It was the best decision I ever
Dan,
made.
All right,
please.
we'll talk about your sickness in a second. Let's get through this list.
Requiring an email address to use the GeForce experience.
So specific, but not
I mean,
unwarranted.
this is really the crotchety old man category. Yeah.
One might argue that like we should please stop using GeForce Experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When do
there's
you
also
have to
that.
do that? I've never had to.
It's
We'll get
there.
We'll get
Okay.
to it. I'll finish the list here. Blind boxes. Gigantic day 1 patches. Sonic the Hedgehog's personal Twitter account.
So that wins.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think we had
We'll
originally
see.
just talked about like bad social media promotion for games, but
Yeah, we talked earlier about some of the Battlefield stuff
the
this
Battlefield
year.
onesie and shit like that.
And you guys brought up the Arby's stuff, which I think is super terrible.
Arby's
I'm
stuff is
okay
all
with that.
The
I think
Arby's
it's-
stuff
I
is
think it's
inoffensive.
I think it's a nightmare.
But I think I just like Arby's, but yeah,
I
I'm
do
okay
too.
with it.
It's making me like Arby's less.
See,
Oh, no, come on.
Yes.
Man,
Don't say things you can't take
know,
back.
100%.
Then that's a problem.
I could go for some Arby's right now.
Arby melt, yeah.
I think that the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter account is its own special brand of terrible because the person who is role playing on that account, like I understand they're going for a thing. I understand there are people who enjoy that thing. I want to punt that account into the ocean and then go into the ocean and beat the shit out of it.
So are they role playing well then for Sonic's Twitter account?
I guess. You know what? Maybe that is actually a perfect version of Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't know.
That's fine. My counter argument would be, it's easy to not follow the Sonic the Hedgehog
It
Twitter
totally
account.
is.
And
I'm looking at it
they're-
now, and I know we see the retweets of the really egregious ones, but like most of it is typical like lame social media account.
Yeah, I know.
And
thing,
like
you
there,
know?
there are enough like actually shitty business practices and stuff on this
Yeah.
list that
Yeah,
like
I know.
this is sure I can see why
This
you're annoyed
this
with
was
it, but
this was just an airing of grievances
Okay.
for me.
All right,
I understand if it doesn't hang here.
that's fair.
But also, fuck Arby's.
Come on,
what
now.
they're doing.
Come on
Arby's
now.
is good.
I like Arby's, the
That's some
food. I like
delicious
Arby's
stuff there.
the food.
Not the
But
brand.
Arby's the brand has
It's
like
just a fella that seems
here's
to
a
like
stack
video
of
games.
French fries
and-
we made look like a video game thing. Look at this.
that-
It's the guy's job. He likes games.
That Mortal Kombat dragon they made out of curly fries was pretty
Yeah.
fucking impressive.
Yeah,
I was
it's
into
two
that.
things I like a lot.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I like that?
It was good. It was like a piece of art.
Yeah,
I don't like it when unrelated things come in and sponge off of video games.
but if you were
in that
running
way,
like the DiGiorno's pizza account or Arby's,
then I would
or
fucking hang
anything-
myself. Like what? Like what do you?
Well, you know what? You're looking for a job, and then a big company says, "Hey, you're going to run our Twitter." It's like, "Hey, it's a job. I'll take it." What are you going to do? You're not just going to tweet about like, "Hey, this sandwich is good."
Yeah,
all day.
no, I'm trying not to blame the human beings behind
Yeah.
this because I think some of them are put in tough spots for what that's worth. But also,
But also, like,
fuck that shit.
like, does DiGiorno's need to tweet every day?
No.
I mean, some people like to be reminded about.
Have you been on-
DiGiorno's.
have you
I
been
like
on
to be
social media?
reminded.
if you work in marketing, you think that your account has to tweet every day because that's just the way you have been conditioned to think.
I mean, that's your job if you're
Yeah.
the social media person. Like, they're
yes,
just
it's your
doing their
job to get on there and be like, "Oh man, my face when Bay doesn't bring DiGiorno's
Exactly,
home."
yeah.
Engage with this shit pizza.
Got to make
That's
hashtag
what I. That's
for your
what I
hungry
would
man
post every
dinners.
day. That's what I would post
Engage
every
with
day.
this pizza every
Hashtag
day?
engage with this shit
Is
pizza.
it a different picture of pizza every day? Is
Yeah.
it a freshly cooked
It's
pizza?
a different person taking a shit on a DiGiorno's pizza every day.
That's
You're gonna get fired from your DiGiorno's job.
No, I'm gonna like. It's so meta at this point that I'm the new fucking king of social.
I think they're doing
Mr.
fine.
Gersman, I'm Alphonse DiGiorno, and
Hello.
you have the tone our brand desperately needs.
Exactly. I'm glad someone can see my amazing vision here.
You are the future of the microwavable pizza.
That's
I just
me.
pulled up
I've always thought so.
I just pulled up McDonald's because I don't think I've ever really looked at their Twitter account. The first one from 3 hours ago. Last one in the sauce is a delicious chicken McNugget. Hashtag squad goals. Hashtag sauce goals. With a picture of chicken McNugget.
Hashtag pistol in my mouth.
So should just we
That
put
is
all of
so
social media on here? Is
Yeah,
that just how we should
Please
do this?
stop Twitter.
Just everywhere.
Anyway,
Yeah. Anyway, that can come off.
yeah. Okay.
It's already gone.
All right.
Big Mac v hashtag slaying.
No, stop. You have to stop,
Dan,
or we'll
close
just be doing
Twitter.
this all day.
Oh, this is good.
Turn it off.
I should
Fucking
follow this.
close Twitter. I'm looking at your laptop. Close your Twitter. Close that
Okay,
fucking
all
browser
right,
tab.
all right.
All right.
All right, let's move on.
All right, playing Clash Royale I put on there as a goof, but actually is there a thing about the way Clash handles itself that is a more refined version of what I wrote here? Because we were talking about Clash when I
I
wrote
thought it was just an intervention. From
Dan apparently
since
just
he-
started playing it
I
again.
saw
And he's
some-
trying to get me to reinstall it.
I saw some folks tweeting about jumping back in, and I was like, you know what? It's been 6 months
So
or
you're saying
more.
social media got you to reinstall Clash
Are
Royale?
these
Yes, yes.
folks that you want to be friends with? Is this like a peer pressure thing?
was this a squad
No,
goal?
It was a hashtag squad goal.
Are you slaying it?
I realized that I did have a lot of fun with that game. The reason I uninstalled it was because it was just kind of dictating. Like, I would see that thing that says, "Oh, my treasure chest is ready to open," and I had to open it and then or a new one. It was that really insidious thing where it keeps you playing all the time. Right when you wake up, you have to do it and open your chest. And you're Brad, did you ever set an alarm in the middle of the night to open a chest?
I don't think I was ever quite that. I definitely stayed up later than I should have a few times
It's
to
like,
wait for chests.
Yeah, if I wait 40 minutes, the chest will open.
It's fucking stupid.
So I'm not doing it that way anymore. I
Y'all
turned off.
gemming? You just gemming now, right? You just spending money?
I might have some gems. I might have bought a pack this morning.
What fucking what?
It was a 5 times value. It came with a level 8.
It was the best value?
Yeah, it came with an Arena 8 magical chest, and I'm Arena 7. And so for $10, if I get 100,000 gold and like 1,200 gems, like, yeah.
I mean, he's not wrong. I mean,
Man,
thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay, that's a lot of
really
gems.
good
I was
value.
I was so fucking excited for these deliberations because I felt like the ultimate revenge on Clash Royale was to never utter the words Clash Royale
But it's
in
a
all of these
good
podcasts, and
game.
you guys have already fucked that up.
You
so
can turn emotes
fuck
off.
this.
You can turn emotes off now. And if you turn off your notifications, it doesn't run your life. You don't always have I play like 1 or 2 games a day, maybe at times that I would normally I'm on the bus and I got nothing to
I
play.
will give them the faintest praise for finally letting you turn off emotes, which is the worst thing in that fucking game. After they came out and first said, like, we're not going to let you turn off emotes because we want you to feel strong emotions while you're playing our game, which is the biggest bunch of fucking bullshit.
I mean, the
I mean, you
strongest
seem to
emotion I
feel
had
some-
was hate.
Also,
I just-
I do think you have to turn them off every match though.
What?
Because I'll start playing and then somebody will laugh at me.
Wait, there's
and
not just
I'll hit a
there's not
button.
just a global setting for... Fuck.
I went into the settings and there was
Dude,
nothing
fuck
about
that.
emotes. So every match I have to remember to touch the little emote button and then do the cross out the king thing.
Like the whole reason that stuff is in there and people taunt you mercilessly with that stuff is because you're way more likely to go buy some new shit to be better at the game when you're angry.
And then you have to start all over once you get to a new
And
fucking
and
arena.
then all you
it's
do
like-
if you pay a bunch of money to get up to the next tier is just run up against people who have yet again spent more money than you.
It's
I
not
am
a
all
problem
for
anymore.
supporting like a free to play game that I'm having
Yeah,
fun with.
yes.
I am
It's
having
like,
fun with it.
Free to play,
And if it
cool,
was a
I'll put
different-
$20 into
if it was a
this,
different
but
kind
I've
of-
put $20-$40 into fucking Clash Royale and never fucking had a good time with this.
If it was
game.
even a different
It was
kind of free to
actively
play.
oh fuck!
So you're
that
saying I
game.
should install it right now?
It's
All right,
much better
we'll
now.
get into this,
It's
yeah.
better now.
But the
You get more gold in your
that's the
crown
thing.
chest.
The only other changes they've made are the types of changes that they have to make when they start losing players. Like now they give you more per chest, and like you can get chests more often.
Feels good. Feels good.
Well, okay. Is there an entry on this list based around anything we've talked about here, or should we just cut this and move on?
Fuck Clash Royale.
Okay, all right.
I like it.
We're cutting it from the list, but also fuck Clash Royale.
It could be so good.
I got an ice golem this morning.
Can it be fuck Clash Royale presents? Please stop.
Apart from Overwatch, what else are we talking about as far as blind boxes go?
Gears.
everything.
Gears,
Battlefield.
I mean, Clash Royale.
Yeah.
Those are all games I have not really spent much time playing. So, but yes, I agree with you.
I think
Plants vs Zombies had them like
Yeah.
they're everywhere.
For me, the issue is like you end up in situations where you open a box and get duplicates, and then suddenly
Yeah.
you're like, oh,
How
wait.
you, how
And
you
okay,
handle
I can-
those duplicates
yeah.
is important.
Because like
Yeah, like
Gears
Gear.
will let you break down the duplicates, but it's not like it's like a 1-to-1, like, oh, I have this card, give me another card. It's like, I get like 5 things, and now
But it's still
hopefully-
something.
Or you can use
It's-
those to
You can
power
use
up.
it.
It's
I like the
eventually,
I like
but
the
it's-
upgrade part of the gear stuff.
Yeah,
you
that-
can, if
that
you have
works for
dupes,
me.
you can combine them to
Yes.
make a better version of the
Yeah,
card.
that is neat. But at the same time, like, oh, I'm gonna spend money and buy 5 cards. Oh wait, I already have this one, so I guess I only get 4 cards. Like, and then don't get a fit. Like, I think duplicates in blind
Yeah, that
boxes,
sucks.
and like Overwatch does it with like skins and
Yeah.
banners
Yep.
and stuff. Where it's like,
Everything. Yeah.
you
They do
get
with
some
everything.
currency
You get
that you
5
can,
gold.
Yeah, but like barely any.
Yeah.
It's like
I
I think it's a quarter of like what it would actually cost in their gold cost or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's terrible. I think that aspect of blind boxes.
Okay, I'm gonna-
is like a new level.
I'm
a
adding
new low.
I'm adding the word exploitative to this entry.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's exciting when you get one. Like,
Sure.
you know, when I play Overwatch, every night I play just to get the loot box, and then it's so fun to open it up, and sometimes it's, I
Yeah.
see a legendary thing going up, but then it's for some player I never play as, you know?
Well, yeah, but I think if it was guaranteed I think games that are like guaranteed no repeats in your boxes, I feel way
Yeah.
stronger about like,
Yeah.
okay, I can handle this.
Yeah, like even Dota went to that length of making that change. So like it's like you will never get a dupe until you have everything you can get out of this chest.
And
Is that right?
To be fair, it's the exact same system they use in Hearthstone, with the packs where you get duplicates and then you break them down and you get less money than you would if you were actually to build that thing out or whatever.
that
But
sucks.
But yeah, like I
can.
don't love it in Hearthstone, and I feel like it makes even less sense in Overwatch. I know that there has to be that treadmill of like, wanting to unlock new stuff, with leveling up and what have you. But I feel like you said, there's a better way to do it. I think if they took the duplicates out of it, that would be a big bonus, especially considering sometimes in those boxes, you just get currency.
Right.
Like getting the 5 gold from a stamp that I don't need versus like the 100 gold or whatever that sometimes randomly, I don't need those dupes at all, and I hate it. I hate it.
Yeah.
Would you rather like roll again, or would you you're okay with it knowing, like putting stuff in the box that is like, I know what you have, I'm just gonna eliminate
Either would be
from these
fine.
items.
Either would be fine.
I just
If
wanted
it
to
came
check
with a
against what I
duplicate
have.
and said like, and you were able to, like, for games where you ever break down the duplicates or something, it was like, do you want this duplicate?
Right.
If not, roll again.
Right,
Or,
roll
you know,
again. I guess
like-
if somebody were just like, hey, it draws from a pool of things that you don't have.
Right.
Before
Yes.
you put it
Yeah.
in.
Yes.
that would be
I would
great.
rather.
But I also need it
Yeah.
to be just cosmetic stuff for the most part. Like in the case of like Gears or something like that, you really have to rely on those cards to get better skills.
Yeah.
Like-
Like horde mode, low level horde mode is
Yeah.
rough if you don't have
yeah, I know.
skills and.
It's very frustrating if I only play as engineer, and I'll open up one of these things, I'll spend my gold, and then it's like, oh, I got a scout and a sniper thing, and like all this stuff I'm never going to use.
Yeah,
So
and you can break it down and maybe get one thing, maybe get, but it's still.
And also, it's kind of clunky. It takes a while to like delete and like all your duplicates
Yeah.
and gears, like watch the animation of it burning and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. It's like the cutesy, like, we've talked about our best like crate opening animations and all that shit, but honestly, all that stuff has to go. Like, especially in a game where you're like opening a lot of them or something. Just like, no, fuck this. Like, just let's
want a
get
command
on
line.
the other side
Just
of
want a
this. I
text
don't
editor.
need to feel good to watch this animation over and over again.
Yeah.
So what I want out of a blind box, I want no dupes. I want just cosmetic stuff. Or if I do get dupes, give me an adequate amount of money
Yeah.
in return.
Like have the dupes have genuine value that you can turn into something you actually want.
Yep.
Instead of just nickel and diming people like a free to play game.
Yep.
That stuff sucks.
Or let me send
Especially
it.
when I
just
played-
let me
I
send it
paid
to
60
somebody or
bucks.
something.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
Just
I
like-
could, that would be another option. Like,
Just like,
something like, hey,
hey, I
let's
got
trade
this
cards
thing.
with players. And,
Yeah.
we can figure it out.
So top 3?
I think I want to keep it for now.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to let go of it just yet.
It's just one of those things I saw in almost every game this year.
A lot of games are
that
doing
had any kind of currency was blind boxes. Like, I guess I'd never played a lot of Dota, or like the first time I guess I saw that stuff
Mass
was in that
Effect.
Mass Effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that multiplayer stuff.
Yep.
But now it's here, right? Like that's what we do.
I certainly don't want like burner items out of blind box shit. Like
Yeah.
Oh, God, no.
Like the old Halo.
single use.
Yeah.
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. The single use stuff is
Yeah.
rotten. That-
Totally.
Yeah.
Seemed like
that
Gears
said,
at
I
least
spent a
got
lot of fucking money.
And some of
Overwatch.
those Gears bounties, I think, when you complete them, they do burn.
Ah, that I
the
think is
bounties
That's a
fine.
little less.
Yeah,
you
because
know.
those are just XP boosts.
Yeah,
Like, that
yeah.
makes sense.
The announcing your games for Q4 thing, is that specifically a 2016 deal?
That's every year.
Yeah, I feel like that's just a
I
thing.
think it happened again this year, and it's been happening
Like,
for
I'm
years.
trying to remember what though. Like what actually was prominent. that got
was
pushed?
South Park.
South Park got pushed.
Was Zelda ever announced for this
They had
year?
s-
And then when they talked
Like,
about the Switch,
But they
it's like,
pushed
hey,
it. They pushed it so long ago.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
indicated, but never gave like a real hard target. I don't think.
If you don't feel like this is the year for it, we
No,
can
I
cut it.
don't
think
just,
so.
Like,
Like,
it's one of those things where it's like, just kind of just start announcing your games for Q1
Yeah.
out of the gate instead of this,
well, especially
like,
now, because like January is no longer this like dumping ground for bullshit.
gotta-
Like people actually use that month for real releases.
or for
and,
Q1 in general, not
yeah,
just January.
Horizon,
like,
Resident Evil.
Like March
yeah.
was always a good month, but like January and February used to be pretty dead, and now they're not.
Yeah. Like,
So I feel like that's a meaningful like quarter to put your games out in.
yeah,
now.
like Mass Effect is Q1.
Yeah.
I don't get the sense that they ever do it maliciously.
No,
Or,
they
you know,
don't.
they-
They don't, and I'm not saying it as necessarily a shitty business practice. I'm
Right.
just saying, like, be realistic
Yeah,
in
sure.
Yeah.
the scope of your game, and actually just say like, Q1.
But yeah, I think we take that off.
All right.
I was really sad to see 2016 become a year where you had to question whether the PC port was going to run well, because I feel like we had gotten into a good stride where it was like, oh, I'm playing everything on PC. And then we got into a place where stuff started coming out and being like, they're working on it. I feel like from a lot of the PC games that came out this year, it was like, they're aware of the problems, they're working on it. A patch is coming soon. And that was a bummer. I feel like we were in a great stride.
We were in a good zone, and then
where PC versions were
kind
like
of like a stress-free 6 months. I think that I didn't have to worry about that shit.
yeah, and then like Dishonored had some rough stuff.
Yeah.
Mafia,
Forza.
Horizon 3.
Yeah.
There was some No Man's Sky stuff where they had beta
Yeah,
patches.
that was not good for a couple
For the
weeks.
first week and a half, it had real problems.
Yeah. Yeah, that stuff got rough in a way that it shouldn't.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the PC is back. It matters, you know?
Yeah.
And to be fair, there were some very good ones this year.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
Doom ran great on PC. Like obviously, Overwatch being Blizzard, like
Yes.
they that game runs great on PC. There's lots of good stuff. It's just that like there were ones that felt like there was no good reason for these games not to be running at least reasonably
it's
well.
just like that crapshoot of not knowing
Yeah.
if it's going to be any good until the day it comes out is such a bummer.
And you had a situation with like Watch Dogs where like they just pushed it back 2 weeks, and you're like, okay, well maybe this actually saved it from having a
Yeah.
really
Right.
rough PC launch.
And by all accounts, that version is
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, yeah,
That
it's
version's
totally
like,
okay.
Good on them for if they needed an extra 2 weeks just doing that. You know?
Yeah.
That could maybe hang
I
here.
think that could hang.
I think it hangs for now, for sure.
I think badly communicating with your fan base is kind of a weird one.
Yeah,
It
I mean,
is.
the two examples in mind for me are No Man's Sky and the Oculus Rift launch.
Just radio
Yeah.
silence.
I think the
Yeah.
Oculus Rift launch, I think, is valid. I think No Man's Sky at some point for the safety of the people working on that game,
And just the mental health in general.
They
Yeah,
kind of like I
know-
I understand why
Yeah.
they would have taken that route.
I do
it
too.
was shitty, but
Maybe they were maybe a little extreme with it, where they could have like one tweet or two in that time span of
one
like,
tweet
hey,
a day,
we're still
hashtag
not
squad
a
goals.
day.
But does their problem with this also extend pre-release?
Kind
Because they were very poorly communicating
That's
what
the
that
thing,
game
they,
was.
They kind of went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah, they
to overpromising to just radio silence.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an extreme case, but like for some of the reasons that you might think they would go radio silent, I can kind of support.
I understand the post-release
Yeah.
communicating.
Yeah, post-release, absolutely,
it's the pre-release stuff that it's harder to forgive.
Well, I mean, like I'm saying, like post-release, they could have like one tweet in that 90-day span or 4 months or whatever it was after release and before that first big update, like just one message saying, "Hey, we're still here working." Probably wouldn't have hurt.
Yeah.
I would make a case for this. I don't know if it hangs here, but I would make a case for this too with some of the updates for 4K stuff on the Sony side of like companies being like, what is updated in your 4K
the fact that
patch?
GameSpot has been running like a constantly updated news story of like, here's every game getting pro support and as best we can tell what it is in each case, and it's like
right.
a bunch of a bunch of cases of like trying to intuit what the improvements are from like some random interview comment from a developer.
Though
or
to be
something.
fair, like Sony is definitely culpable in that, but it's also like it's more that they aren't enforcing more rigid communication
that
from
sucks.
publishers to talk about what those games
That sucks,
do.
but like I mean, this is an unprecedented move for a console maker to ask people to come back around and spend another $400 on like a slightly better version of the same console. Three years into the life cycle, and
it's
not
just-
clearly communicating, here are all the reasons you should get this.
But badly communicating with your fan base is, I mean, you don't have to pin it on Sony. It can go to publishers.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying is that I think that Sony has a certain amount of culpability
It
by
is-
not just enforcing a standard of communication.
Sony-
that's
Sony should be
patch,
setting-
they've got
Yeah.
patch
Yes.
notes on the console that they could be forcing people to take advantage of in a better way.
They allow a lot of developers to like that patch notes feature on the PS4 is great, but like how many developers now, like every patch just says like
Go to the website.
go to blah blah blah.com to
Yeah.
find out details. Like fuck that.
Yeah, that's
that
super
stuff sucks. And then there's other stuff like The Last of Us Remastered has pro patches that added super sampling and then removed it, and
Yeah.
like the pro sportsmen back and forth, and they're not really kind of out there about some of the like it's people going from patch to patch and going, wait a minute, this thing changed, what happened?
Yep.
And like fans breaking it down.
Yep. Like having to Google every time a patch comes out or after I got my Pro, like I thought about leaving my old PS4 hooked up for a while because there were certain games that ran better on it. Like that's just insane.
And to be clear, this is not about the fact that there is that level of variance. Like it's fine that developers have these options in front of them of the ways that they can approach these games. It's that it's just to find out the information about what is meaningfully different from version to version is hard, way harder than it should be.
And totally underestimating, you would assume anyone who would go out and buy a PlayStation 4 Pro, especially if they already owned an existing PS4, would be the sort of person who would really care about nitty-gritty details.
Yep.
Yes.
Professionals, if you will. And those people are not getting served and like being kind of left in the dark and being left to figure this stuff out on their own.
Oh, they're getting served.
Oh yeah, they'll serve some. Yeah, so
Are you being served?
I guess I see a case for that on the list.
There's a case. I'm not sure it's going to hang,
Yeah.
but I think there is a case.
How about not including on-screen menus on your TV? Fuck that.
Well, fuck that TV.
Let's talk about this GeForce thing real quick, and I don't think that's going to be on here much longer.
Yeah.
I think the
Yeah,
GeForce experience
that
sucks
but-
for a variety of reasons, but I don't know about the email. I haven't had the email address thing. It's just that thing runs like trash.
Well, the idea that they want you to create a fucking user account with them to update your drivers is a little bit beyond the pale.
Like you can go to their website and download the old way.
You can still get them,
but
the
there
old
is
way.
something nice, like that piece of software is not terrible.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And
I like the
optimizing
core
games
idea. I
for
like
your-
the idea. Of
It lets
the
me know when there's a
optimization
new
stuff.
driver.
Yeah, it's like a one-click way to upgrade your drivers very
It's just that
seamlessly.
click takes a really long time to load up, and it doesn't necessarily like work as well as it should.
No, the thing is fine.
yeah, I've
It's,
never
again,
had it.
I've had maybe
it's
I just have a
actual-
bad install of that thing or something,
Maybe.
but it runs like shit on my computer.
But the idea that they took the thing that was free and fine and all of a sudden stuck it behind
Hey, we
like
want
a,
some customer data.
Yeah, behind a login wall where they just want you to fucking sign up with your email address so they can market to you.
Whereas you could still go to the website
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
just
yeah.
download the drivers yourself.
Right. But again,
or-
that's now more work than it was to use the
Yeah.
GeForce experience.
Have you
Yeah.
guys
It's
tried
just-
any like the custom profiles for specific games?
No, I never messed with that
I've
stuff.
had bad luck with
Really?
that. Yeah.
I've used the optimize for my system
For your
stuff.
system stuff? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
that
right. And,
stuff's
like,
been okay.
Some
Yeah.
of it works.
Like some, yeah,
Gotcha.
that stuff's
I like seeing-
obviously if you want to fiddle, you're gonna
Yeah.
get things the way you like it. But,
But
generally speaking,
it's at least another. Sometimes I don't know all those options, so at least I can. Like sometimes they do a really nice thing when you hover over the thing and it's like, here's what this fucking means, and here's a picture of what it's doing.
That's nice.
But I like getting another perspective quickly of like, what do you think my computer should do for this game? Because I think I have a good computer, and it's like, you're good, man.
Yeah.
just run it, and then it's like you were wrong. Or usually I think it actually underestimates. And,
Oh, really?
Yeah, usually I think it
I get
errs.
pissed when it does that. It's
Yeah.
like, no, I can fucking
I
let
know,
me show
yeah.
you. I can run it at ultra.
But like, yeah, putting something that's just like a data collection thing
Yeah.
of like, why do I have to register with my video card driver updates? This sucks. You don't need my data.
it's like congratulations. Here's another fake email address from me to you.
Yeah.
Thanks, NVIDIA.
And like,
yeah,
This almost could be every service requiring you to register, but this just seems egregious and totally dumb.
well, this was the
and-
thing that they went a good long time without this feature, and then suddenly it was like, hey, we're downloading a patch.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
So can you do shadow play and everything without this?
I know for
No,
the
you
for
can't. you have
the
to log in.
I've
the
never gotten
application.
this thing.
It will update.
Yeah,
You will
eventually
update to the
eventually
new
it will
version at
force
some
you
point.
to upgrade to the new version.
Okay.
Yeah, it's lame. We can take it off.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
Yeah,
not
it's not top three.
but man, it's dumb. Day one patches, big ass day one patches.
So what's the purpose for a big ass day one patch, do you think?
What do you mean the purpose?
Why are they doing it?
Because
Game's broken.
The games aren't done.
Because when the
they-
game went gold,
when they master.
it
Yeah.
did not.
I think this
It
is,
went bronze.
I think this is a hard one because
Yeah.
of the reality of burning discs and all the other stuff. I think day one patches for PC games that are big are pretty crazy. 'cause
Yeah.
there's that,
I'm with you.
but-
I mean, patches in general have just ballooned like crazy.
Well,
And-
I don't have as much of a problem with because
Oh,
like,
really?
you can't, like, we're not in a position to audit what is in a patch that comes out a month after release or whatever. You know, like games have patched 10 gigs worth of new maps and features and stuff in. Like,
Sure.
you can't. I don't think you can knock them for post-release stuff, but like specifically, like in my mind, the problem here is like you buy a disc console game on day one, come home and throw it in, and then you have to wait 3 hours
That
for
does suck.
PSN's shitty ass download speeds to push a 12 gig patch down.
Or basically, that disc has nothing of what you're playing
Right,
on it.
right.
You put that disc in, and it's not installing that disc. It is like,
Yeah.
or maybe sometimes it does install.
It
the disc
always
and
installs
then
the
pulls
disc,
a
but then it
patch.
still has to download. And
Yeah.
this dovetails again with like bad console download speeds of like, you can't just go to a store and buy a disc game in a lot of cases and just come home and play it anymore. Like you're still
Yeah.
waiting hours for a download.
And in some cases, when you do, if you are one of the relatively rarefied people now who don't really have like the kind of high speed internet necessary to download these sorts
Right.
of things, sometimes you are getting just straight up a game that is not the game nearly everyone is talking about and playing. And No Man's Sky is sort of the key example of that. Like, you know, the core gameplay is the same, but like there are a lot of major changes between that day one patch and what is on that disc.
I think this is a weird one overall because I think that like our real problem here is that games have to go gold at a certain date to get into the manufacturing process, and I think our real thing here is physical discs suck.
They do, but like they're not. They haven't gone away yet. You know,
They don't
like
have to,
the majority of sales are still happening on disc.
Well,
Like I would
from what
rather
we know.
have a living, breathing game that changes over time and all this other stuff, like than launch a game broken on disc and then hold off for a week to put your patch out because you want people to be able to play it out of the box.
I don't think
I
that's
don't know.
I don't think
feel
that's
like this
fair
is a
argument.
hard.
Like that's like a delay your game. It's not ready yet. Because if you're gonna print it to disc, like discs, like I had a situation, and I don't know if this stays here or not, but I had a situation over Thanksgiving where my little brother needed to buy games, and we were gonna play that night, right?
Yeah.
But buying the games on disc was worthless.
Right.
Like the time that we would save, I had to make an account in the office and start and be like, hey, buy these things so we can start downloading them. If you put that Battlefield disc in, we will be stuck there for 2 hours trying to get that to play. I need to download that for you at 9:00 today in the morning and start that up. So like a disc became worthless.
And even removed from the patch stuff, like the way, I mean, and this is, just the way this stuff works now, but it's like the amount of hard drive space that even a running off the disc game requires nowadays, like you might as well just fucking buy the digital version.
Well, that's the
The
thing,
console
like,
games,
none
both
of them run off
consoles,
the disc anymore.
They run entirely off the hard drive.
Yeah.
They all install the entire disc.
So I, this is a hard one because I just
Maybe there's a better way to phrase this then.
yeah. Because I think the real problem here is I agree with you that that's a shitty problem, but.
And like that game just came out.
That is the reality of how games are made and
but,
mastered.
But
and
that's
burnt to
giving
disc and all this
them
other
a
stuff.
pass on the way they use that process. Like, yes, there is lead time on disc manufacture, but it's still their fault that they are bending that to almost beyond the breaking point of like we're gonna gold master what we can onto the disc now. And then count on the next 6 weeks to actually finish the game.
But I think it goes beyond.
That's on them for doing that.
I think
Like,
it goes beyond disc too, because there have been plenty of times we've been in the office where we're prepping something to play for a quick look. We're waiting for release to get the multiplayer going, and then walk into the studio and like boot it up, and it's got like a 40 gig day one thing that has to release, and like that sucks as well. And that could be chalked up to preview.
I was gonna say like that.
It
that's
depends whether
not
it's a release code
yeah.
or not. But some stuff is given as like this is release, but heads up, it's got the day one patch built
But also,
in or not.
also, we're on like fast corporate internet with no data caps in here. Like, I'm trying to look at this from the perspective of people with like slow, shitty capped internet that have no other alternative but to use that because
and buy discs.
that's the only ISP they can get.
I mean, like, I agree with you that this stuff sucks, but I'm trying to look at it from the perspective of like, well, what do you actually want? Like, because the thing you're actually saying is like, if you want the complete game on the disc, then what you're saying is games need to release later, or schedules need to be better, or
yes.
like you're talking about, we need to have grand sweeping changes to the practices of game development.
That's why I'm saying maybe there's a better way to phrase this entry. Than,
but also,
than
like,
day
I
one
feel
patches,
like then, like, once we start getting into that, I feel like we're a little out of our depth.
Well, there was a time I feel like where patches came down and they just weren't the whole size of the game.
Right.
Like you're patching something not that's missing, or like you don't have to include all the
and there-
I
textures.
feel like
But to be
it's
fair-
relatively rare when it is.
Yeah, that's the thing.
patched that
The
big.
number
Like, it's
of
not-
games that actually do the full size of or at least close to it, is not that high compared to the ones that are just doing like 10 or 11 gig patch type things.
I mean, but that's a big.
It is big. I'm not saying that's not big, but I'm saying like the 40 gig, like here's the full like executable of this game patch is a relatively rarefied thing. That does not happen a lot.
Like if I'm downloading 10 gigs, that better be a new map or something like that. Like what are you patching that should be 10 gigs? Did you fuck up every texture for like this level?
Maybe I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know.
So like fix that. Like don't put that on the consumer.
You're right. Yeah,
Like,
totally.
But I feel like the actual solution to what you would be saying would end up in worse games.
Yeah,
I honestly feel like you're asking the industry to be disciplined in a way that it 1,000% is not.
and it's never been.
But why is that forgivable though?
I mean, they're taking
why are-
advantage.
like,
I'm not saying it's
ask for that.
forgivable. I'm saying it's the way it is, and like I don't think there's a better way to do it without like fully jacking up and replacing the way games are developed. And that's not a claim I feel comfortable as a non-game developer making.
Yeah, I mean, I
because I don't know enough about it. Like I feel like this is a really hard one to pin down to what the actual problem and
the
solution
bottom
is.
line, though, is that when games ship is not down to the people making them, it's down to the suits paying for them.
Yeah.
Like those are the people
Okay.
that dictate when they ship. Those should be the people pushing those dates back if necessary to deliver a functional
So
fucking product.
is this then stop marketing your release date until it is actually your release date?
That's probably the better way to go, sure.
Like, I don't know if this makes our top 3.
Maybe not.
I think
maybe not.
under any event, like, yes, this is an annoying trend, but it's one that's been going for a while. Like since this console generation pretty much kicked off, it's just been it's been increasing in both like size and scope. But the thing is, video games have always come in hot all the time.
But it's gotten way worse because technology has allowed them to push it further than they ever could before. It has gotten dramatically worse.
And again, I think I'm with Jeff that is on the people who are making these release date decisions and less on game development itself. Because
I'm saying, I just said that.
Yeah,
Like,
okay,
that
with
is,
you,
yes,
I'm
that
with
is
you
the
on
case.
that. Yes.
We just want them to stop doing that. That's all.
I just want the time between when I think I'm ready to play a game and when I'm actually ready to play a game to shorten. Like that to me is the biggest thing here of like you bought a game, you think you're good, and then you boot it up the next day and you realize that you can't.
Like there were people on my Twitter feed that buying The Last Guardian 2 nights ago when the night it came out on disc, then posting photos of their TV saying it's going to be like 4 hours to finish downloading the patch
like
you
the
need to
next
start
day.
playing
So
it.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe I just really lucked out with that one, but I felt like I put that disc in, it downloaded the patch relatively quickly for PSN standards, but like the actual install process and whatever was pretty fucking quick for
We
that
have
thing.
a ridiculously fast internet here.
Yeah.
That still is sometimes really shitty with PSN.
PSN
So,
can
like,
be.
I-
Can
yeah.
Well,
still
this
be
is
really bad
on
in
my
the general.
my mom's bad
Oh,
wireless
okay.
internet at her home.
gotcha.
So
I mean, I think it's a problem and I think it sucks. But I don't know if it'll make the top 3 on here, but it's definitely something to recognize.
Yeah,
like-
I mean, I am totally in agreement with you. I think it's
Yeah.
just one of those things that it's that way for a reason, and it's shitty. It fucking sucks. But like with the way games are made right now, and also, yeah, you're right. There is some culpability on like think about it. Like Xbox 360 used to have patch limits in terms of like, hey, here's like what 4 gigs, then it was 8, or not even.
it was
gigs.
also I think they had like
it was like
they
4
also had
megs or
limits of
something.
how often you could patch games, and
Yeah, like-
and
Yeah,
maybe some of that was a little too restrictive. But
Some
yeah.
of this stuff is no longer realistic in this day and age, but I remember thinking like when the 360 came out, like capping those patch sizes to a super small amount was one of the smartest things they ever did with that console, because even when you booted a game up and it needed a patch, it took like 30 seconds because the patches could only be like 4 megabytes or something like that.
And then it led to like weird workarounds as developers suddenly started getting more ambitious with their games, where then you had to go like buy free DLC.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's not
and-
super applicable to the way things are today, but there
Yeah.
still should be better standards around that stuff than just like, hey, you need a 6-hour download before you can play this.
Yeah, honestly, I almost think it should be like, hey, anyone can download the patch data whether you have the disc in the drive or not. So
That
you
wouldn't
are
hurt.
you are like, hey, I am planning to buy The Last Guardian. Sign
Right.
me up for patches today.
Right. That would not be the worst way to go.
And
that's something.
And then when I put the disc in, it's ready.
Yeah.
Like
Right, like they almost need to like preload the patch before release.
Yeah.
So that like it's like I gonna buy this on disc. Give me this so that when I put the game in, you check it and we're good.
right.
That's just it's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
but that's where it's at. That's where things are at.
But yeah, and that's like a fucking super backwards solution. You would like to think it would come from the other end and just be more realistic, and we would get complete games on disc. But like the more likely scenario, the actual fix to this problem is no more discs.
And that's
I am
a
with
fucked
you.
up
Like
crazy
that,
thing
that
for
is,
people in a lot like
but that's-
wide swaths of the world.
that's
but
the problem. Like that's the beautiful utopian future,
Yeah,
but
but-
like most of the world is not close to being ready for that
Yeah.
yet.
But it is there already. I mean, you need internet required for basically
That's
everything.
what I'm saying,
that's
yeah.
the thing. They have kind of like it's like the worst of both worlds, right?
Yeah.
Like we're not to the ease and elegance of all digital yet, but they are still requiring everybody to be digital to some degree,
I mean, we live
even
in
though they don't have the internet for it.
we definitely live in this in a production environment where it's like if we're gonna do a multiplayer thing, say we're gonna do something like we have to make sure everybody
Oh,
gets
yeah.
in and starts checking for patches
Yeah.
early enough to be like, all right, do you have to how much space you have to clear
Right.
off a machine or like
But also, I
download?
think like normal consumers in a lot of cases who have their systems on in a standby mode
could be right.
Like when my PS4 at home, it's never an issue because it's downloading patches in the background. Xbox One, usually is pretty similar, though they stopped downloading as many patches as they used to. Like there's now like a queue list where it's like, here's 25 games you haven't patched.
Also does kind of a bad job of surfacing that
because
stuff.
you haven't played them in a long time. So
Yeah.
we're not going to waste data on you. We're not gonna pay for the bandwidth if you're not ever going to play that game again, which I think is a little shitty.
Yeah.
But also now I have a data cap, so maybe
You're living in
people-
it too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
if
this
you-
is a hyper complicated issue that I think is like fucked up in a zillion different ways. Maybe you're right. Maybe there's hotter stuff on this list, but
It's
also
just hard to put a bow on
really
this.
hard to pin it down in a way that I think is fair.
Yeah.
Because the problems are like happen at so many different levels of this process.
I guess so. The people who are most directly at fault for this and also the most capable of changing it are the ones who, like, how can I put this? Like, it's the people pulling the fucking purse strings. It's the people in the business end of publishers setting release dates.
Yeah.
And like forcing ships as opposed to allowing for delays when they might need the time to actually finish the fucking game.
Right.
right, like you shouldn't use it as a crutch.
Right. Yes.
That seems to take advantage.
And everyone
of
does
that.
now.
Right.
All right, maybe we leave it there and just talk about the rest of
I will
these.
say the Titanfall 2 day one patch was super small.
Good.
And they were out there bragging about it.
Yeah,
It
like
was
when they do
all
it right, it's totally fine.
2017's best, smallest day one patch.
Right. Yeah.
Why don't we tackle these 2 VR ones here?
Okay.
Okay.
What's up with VR shooting galleries?
It seems like that there are like 9 more of them every day, and like I'm not even saying that all of them are bad, because shooting a gun in VR can be kind of just fun on its own. But we're seeing a lot of games that are just like, I don't know, here's a thing that shoots, and we're gonna provide you some targets, and sometimes they're men with guns, and sometimes they're literal targets.
Are there
from
way
game to
more
game.
of those than there are Pong games?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like it's certainly overtaken Pong.
Okay.
I feel like as the like, I don't know, what if you just shot some stuff? Space Power Trainer is good, right? What if we made one of those but real guns? Like, no, that sucks too.
Just wave based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and it's like a lot of them are kind of half finished, and a lot of them are just like, oh, this is early access. We're gonna polish this up later. Like, no, the fuck you are. Come on. Like it seems like the first VR cash in of like, hey, let's make a thing that is a gun thing, and maybe you're shooting zombies, maybe you're shooting this, maybe you're shooting this, but it's all just kind of these relatively static games.
And they also have been doing that and tacking on well-known franchises like Serious Sam or Until Dawn, and it's just like, this is just a totally different thing. Really.
Yeah. That stuff.
The Until Dawn one was especially egregious.
Yeah,
to me.
because that's
like,
nothing. That has nothing to do with.
like it has
Until
some of the
Dawn.
same assets, and that's it.
Yeah, that thing was weird.
Yeah.
I finished that thing for some stupid reason.
But then you have like,
not
like
very long,
Overkill
right?
VR and Lethal VR, and there's just like a lot of different shooting gallery games. I think that sucks. Like,
This also seems like it is one of those things that will stop at some point as people become more and more tired of that sort of thing and start trying to look for other experiences.
yeah, I think that is you're starting to see a little bit of that just because it is getting so saturated.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, hey, shooting a gun in VR is kind of cool. Gives you an opportunity to try to turn the gun on yourself. There's a lot, there's good times to be had.
But nobody ever stopped with the minigame collections on the Wii.
No,
they did
never,
not.
never assumed.
or Connect.
Like, this kind of feels like that in some cases. Like, like even like Carnival games came out in VR. this
Yeah,
year.
so that's going to be
So-
next year's Please Stop
Right.
is the fucking Wii style minigame collections in VR.
Yeah, that's you are not wrong.
Yeah.
It just takes a little longer to make those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you have to come up with 5 different things instead of just one. Maybe some of these will turn into some of those by the time we're all like, oh, shooting gallery was just one of our mini games. Now we've got baseball too.
Baseball too.
Nintendo finally entering the VR space with Nintendo Land VR.
If it had that-
Nintendogs
If
VR.
it had that music in it,
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
I don't think that one stays on here.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Either of the VR ones, really.
And yeah, no, and there's the kind of like pre-backlash to VR from people who fucking haven't tried it at all.
there was
dumb.
definitely like a weird. It almost felt like a vendetta or something.
It was a Dan Reichert-esque. I'm not going to get VR, so I want it to be bad.
Yeah, there were a lot of
don't
people.
do that.
I don't
Well, no,
feel
you don't do
guilty
that
about
anymore.
it.
You didn't do that for
some,
VR, but
there were some people out there that seemed like they were rooting for it
No,
to fail.
this is your 16-bit. This is you not wanting the Super Nintendo to exist or whatever it was
What?
that you talk about. You talked about this multiple times.
Not wanting
that you're
the
just
Super
like that
Nintendo
you just you
does
want you don't want to have to get a new console, so you're
back
convincing
then.
yourself that this was
Oh yeah. Oh, you're talking about old Dan.
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you were
So-
talking
sorry,
about. Yeah, I
sorry.
thought you were talking about new Dan.
Forgot we're sitting with New Dan.
I haven't talked to old Dan in a
I'm
while.
not convinced
sorry.
that old Dan actually went anywhere. but
Yeah.
I still
He's
don't
been
want
in Kansas for like
this is-
a
I
year
don't
and a
know.
half now.
I
yeah.
remember
I see him around here.
Old
every now
Dan
and
is still
again.
pulling the levers behind the scenes.
No.
I remember old Dan having some very particular opinions about Metal Gear recently.
Yeah, I feel like
Metal Gear
old
Space.
Dan has
Liking
a
it?
lot of thoughts about space and lasers that I think are really insane.
So I can
Anyway, like this doesn't make the list.
Yeah.
This is just I just wanted a moment to say like, I get that it's not the easiest thing in the world to try.
it's also like $800.
and I'm not
Yeah, it's
and
expensive and not
and I
worth
am
it.
not recommending that people run out and buy it
Right.
under
Yes.
any like unless you really 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 want it and can afford it and all that other stuff. Like the hoops are
a lot of the
there are
demands
many.
are
There are many.
insane.
Is part of this though that since it is hard to try out, especially in the early days when you had to go to a convention or something to play it, that so many people in the industry were talking about VR so much, and maybe people got tired of hearing about it
Yes,
because they could not
absolutely.
try
Yes,
it.
yes, for sure.
And it's like, man, at least with normal games, I can see videos, I can do this stuff.
Yes,
But there's
totally.
a way
And-
to express that frustration that is not just rooting for it to fail because
Oh,
you
yeah.
you don't like the sound of it and you don't like hearing about it.
Oh, no, I'm not justifying people wanting it to fail because of that. It's just people being
Like,
like,
we-
I'm tired of hearing about it because I can't try it.
We'll put up
you
our
know?
VR videos and stuff like that, and like in each one of those Verodios, there is at least one or two things I feel that you can go like, "Oh, this is awesome," and then sometimes there's some real shit.
Yeah.
and then you'll just see someone go, "Well, VR still sucks." It's like, no, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
So that's all. We can cut that from the list.
Okay.
that's fine.
You said your piece.
YouTube.
Speaking of YouTube,
Let's talk about.
not providing early review copies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess as of now, 2K and Bethesda are still the only two with like the stated policy of
yeah.
doing this, right?
Yeah.
So I think on its head,
You could make the case that some outlets definitely, well, it's a little selective, and people have been selective for years. But like some outlets definitely got Final Fantasy,
yes.
and then some outlets definitely got it the day before,
Yes.
which seems like that one, and Wired also.
Yeah. Wired got it the day before.
Yeah,
really?
yeah. One of those things where like that is the soft ban. Hey, we're just going to put you in a position where you can't review this game in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
Haha.
And similar things have gone on for years and still go on to this day of like, well, you didn't come to our review event that we were holding. You turned that down, so we're not going to send it to you until
Yes.
it comes out.
Yeah.
But so the specificity here is that Bethesda and 2K have come out and they have said they are no longer sending review copies out until the day before launch.
Yeah.
And they put on airs saying that this is a universal policy, though have in some cases gone on to maybe send those games to some very enthusiastic YouTubers who might be sympathetic to their cause.
and some
in
traditional
and some
outlets,
traditional
too.
outlets as well have definitely gotten copies of games.
Yes.
of 2K and Bethesda
have-
games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. I did not hear
Yeah,
that
I didn't-
detail.
I didn't know
it is
about
not, It is
that.
not necessarily the blanket policy they would like you to believe.
Huh. Okay, I wasn't aware of that.
And
So
so
I just think it does the customers a disservice
Yeah.
to not be able to have
yeah,
some
and
of
I
that.
feel like like this is a weird one because like on some level we have a vested interest in this, but also
We do.
we review so infrequently and
games.
don't review it on such a deadline. Like I feel this is more important for the outlets of the world that are very review focused still. Like that's
And
I think reviews are valuable,
And I
in
think
a
it's-
sense to some degree.
And I also, as Vinny said, it's a consumer thing. Like whether or not, you trust every outlet out there and care about their review opinions. Like the reality is if you're not putting your game out there for people to see, like really frankly, prior to release outside of, carefully managed preview coverage, then you are essentially preventing people from getting accurate takes on those games before they launch. And I understand that like some people are going to buy those games anyway. They pre-order, and that's the way it goes. But like this feels very nakedly in service of trying to stop people from canceling those pre-orders at any fucking cost.
I think we're at a time now where publishers are asking you to put the most money up front with season passes, with pre-orders,
And especially now with this trend of like you can play it early if you buy into the expensive version.
sometimes hardware, like
Or if you have the EA access or what have you.
and sometimes with the biggest unknown, like on the biggest leap of faith. And
I actually say EA Access is not too bad because you
No,
don't
it's
have you
not.
don't have to buy those games.
Yeah,
You just
that's
have to
actually
sign up
not-
for their
that's
service
not a
and you-
terrible
you
deal.
get
No,
it.
I'm just saying like there
know,
are ways to
yeah,
play that stuff
right,
ahead of
yeah.
time as long as you buy into whatever their version of that is.
Right.
I mean, that's what, $5 a month.
Yeah.
To play a new game for 10 hours
That's
is
like-
actually not. That's not a bad
I'm not
deal.
saying that idea is inherently bad. Some do it better than others. I think EA Access is one of the better options for that. But it's like there are tons of different like non-standard ways of going about this stuff now.
So I think with the publishers making those asks, you're also mapped at the same time with never before has there been so much information about a game before release, during release, and after release, and trying to parse out what is company dictated, what has been influenced, what is like kind of like this guy on YouTube has an early copy,
Fact from fiction.
a little bit,
yes,
yeah.
but was this supported by EA or not?
Yeah,
I mean, to their credit, EA is getting out in front of that
Yeah.
stuff.
So-
Like,
so that's
that
great.
stuff's been good to see.
but like there are times when stuff comes out and it's just broken, multiplayer's broken on day one, or like
Hey, this old stuff when campaigns are completely
campaigns are
frame
broken.
rates are bad.
Yeah,
you know,
or a
there's
version
lot
of the game is bad, or like a feature
Right.
that was supposed to be in it is not in it, and I feel like that's important stuff to know. And as maybe not perfect as the quote unquote old journalistic review system was, a lot of that stuff surfaced during that.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it were to go down this road where it's like everybody gets it at the same time,
like attempting to suppress that stuff is, very clearly like
in their favor.
yeah, it's not like, oh, we want everyone to experience at the same time. Like these
Bullshit.
idiot like justifications for this stuff are just insane. Like it's very clear what is actually
Yeah.
happening with that stuff. But yeah, I think like I have felt a lot of different ways about the value of reviews over this year. in
But
a
I
sense.
think if
But
you
I
broaden
think that,
reviews to
like,
impressions, it maybe opens the scope up a little bit
Sure,
more. Because
sure.
like you can talk about stuff on a podcast by playing it early.
Yep.
That gives people a clearer sense of like this might not be shaping up to be the thing
Right.
that you
Right.
wanted. And I think that's important for consumers to have at least that perspective.
And I think it's important to emphasize that, I don't think we would be in favor of this policy one way or the other. But if these policies were actually enforced in a meaningful way where everyone was getting the same access at the same time, I feel like it would be less egregious. But the fact that, they're saying one thing out of the right side of their mouth and then the left side of their mouth is spitting copies at fucking YouTubers, like that's, I find that particularly upsetting.
yeah, it's extremely clear
Yeah.
what the goals
What the intent
are with
is.
that stuff.
Yeah.
So that stuff, I think, it really sucks. I think it is bad for consumers.
Tough.
It's leaving people less informed when it comes time for them to be able to make a purchasing decision in an attempt to get more people to pre-order, in an attempt to get more people to do, to kind of respond to the marketing, respond to YouTube stuff, whatever it is.
And so many of these games rely on services that have to be implemented that are not in the physical copy, right? That are like back-end services that are like,
yeah.
Sometimes they would hold reviewer events or they would have like days that are,
Yeah, which is
not,
none of that's perfect.
none of that's perfect, but
Yeah.
like at least you can kind of get a sense for what this might be. Like, hey, we're holding a session, right?
Right.
Like here's what it'll be. I mean, it's a lot of times why reviews don't come out until release anyway, regardless of embargo. At least I think we try and wait for the real world switch
Depends.
to go
It depends on what access we get to a game and stuff like that. Like in a lot of like multiplayer. So take Titanfall for example, where that was a game that a lot of people had copies of it in the run up to release. So it was easy to get a sense of how that game responded in the real world on proper internet.
Which is, I also can work against it sometimes because when you have day one release and everybody hammering on a service, it can go down for the first couple of hours of a release.
Right.
And if nobody's played it before then, you don't know how that shit's supposed to go.
Right.
So like if you're just popping it in and be like, I can't connect to EA servers.
Yeah.
Maybe this is how the world is.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. I don't like it. Like we don't truck in reviews as much as you said, like other people.
Yeah.
We do truck in impressions and like we do try to give people quick looks and stuff like that. And I think
Like we want to be able to inform, and we want to be able to do it in a way that is beneficial to people who are trying to make a decision. And a lot of those, the most people are trying to make that decision at launch.
Right.
And not being able to say anything about it, like until after a game comes out, like negates somewhat our ability to do that to the best of our ability.
or trying to have to work around it.
Yeah.
Like just kind of sucks. Like who's breaking street.
Right.
And like that's
okay, well, like let's all cut corners then and get
Right.
weird. Okay, sure. Let's make friends with the distributor. Let's do that.
The whole thing feels shitty.
For what it's worth, this is anecdotal, but the number of emails I've gotten to the Bombcast address from people who have had the appropriate reaction to this of just saying like, yeah, I've started waiting a week or 2 weeks to buy these games now that's kind of encouraging.
That's good.
It's been a fair number.
And you're
Surprising,
starting to see. I feel like there's been some talk about like pre-orders not mattering the way they did 5 years ago when that was everything, and that also that maybe some of this day one purchase stuff is actually starting to taper off, and maybe week 2 is mattering more than it used to in some cases. Like I don't feel like we've heard that enough to say confidently
Definitively,
that
it's been
that's
kind of
happening,
implied
that's a
here and
trend,
there.
but it's there's a little bit of noise, smoke on the street, making that sort of sound like that's starting to be the case. I think digital sales have changed a lot around like that sort of stuff too.
Do you mean selling games digitally or actually like putting them on sale?
Selling games digitally.
Okay.
Just like the importance of retail, because if you think about it, the reason pre-orders were always so big in recent history is because when that pre-order number is big, the retailer, a GameStop, Target, whatever you got, they're going to know, okay, this game is hot right now. We probably need to order way more copies. So like their sell-in number at launch becomes bigger.
Yeah.
And so that's why pre-orders matter more and more and more. Like I said it, like one of the first conversations we had coming over here from someone that was working on sales ideas. As I was like, well, how do we fit into like the sales story of this stuff? And he was like, well, what can you guys do for pre-orders? And I was like, absolutely nothing, because we truck in the idea of don't pre-order games. So, and he was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go away forever. And I was like, cool. So, yeah, in some sense, yeah, like some of the emails you're getting, some of this anecdotal stuff we're starting to hear about, that sort of stuff, the way digital has impacted things, like that pre-order concept probably doesn't hold as much weight as it did.
Really?
The only reason I like pre-ordering now is if I can preload. Like that to me,
That's a nice perk.
Yeah,
for sure. That's
is like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I know I'm kind of gonna want to get in on this. It would be great if after work I go home and this thing's waiting for me on my PS4 or Steam account, which is because like this time you have to wait, especially on PS4. Like I get home at like 9:00 and it's like this game came out. I'm like, I'm not playing it that night.
Yeah. No.
Which stinks.
Maybe we should talk about Steam preload decryption times while we're at it.
Right.
that shit's all
That
over
stuff
the
is not
place.
good either.
It is faster for me to download a game from 0 than it is to
It's like
reload it.
Once it's already out,
whatever.
I have had that experience.
Yeah.
Like doomed to fucking like over an hour to decrypt.
Yeah, that stuff's pretty weak.
So I think that's definitely a thing.
I'm not ready to cut that off this
I
list.
think I would put it on the list with looking at what we've got here.
All right.
I think that
There's one we haven't talked about.
What about these pop songs? What's wrong with pop songs?
Doesn't give
Everybody
a
likes a
shit.
good song.
God, it's got really bad, man.
It's like the Mad World thing was a funny, weird, and at the time it was like, okay, it's a different choice.
Mad
sure.
World was fun.
Mad
That
World
a
was fun.
thing.
Sure,
at the
put that
time.
in there.
But can we blame that for starting this?
But that was a solemn song done solemn.
And that was an existing.
Well,
I think
it
that
was a
an
cover.
but it was an existing one. Like it was a. I think that was a pretty well known cover
Yes.
of that song.
Yes,
right?
it was.
It's not-
it was
it's
in
not-
Donnie Darko.
But the
and-
thing
yeah.
is, we can trace everything that has happened since then back to fucking Mad
Oh
World.
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And like again, as a one-off, like I still kind of like that.
Sure.
but it's 10 years later, and it's just getting worse.
And now I'm getting covers of Nothing Else Matters
Yeah.
as I'm
Yes.
trying to watch this Gears of War. And
Yeah.
you know what is a good song is the original version of Nothing Else Matters.
Yeah.
Maybe just put that in your trailer.
How about Sounds of Silence? I like that song.
yeah, that's a fun track.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
do you?
Can't really
What-
screw that one up.
Oh,
can
you
ya?
know, well then, let me tell you, man, the greatest band in the world did a version of it for you that I think you're really gonna like.
Really?
Disturbed, y'all.
They're the best band in the world.
I did not know. Oh, yeah, I can hear it.
I think these are both from Gears 4
Yes.
trailers.
That,
right?
and so if you think about it, like new developer, like they need to like try to like put a stamp on it to remind you that it's still Gears.
Hey, we're still making Gears
like
over here.
this is in some way some marketing dude's desperate attempt to like reclaim the Mad World magic, and that makes that even sadder.
Yep.
Yeah, it
I
does.
agree.
They did this twice for one game.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
insane.
Let's hear some more of that.
But they're not the only ones who did.
No,
Like,
there were a
Gears-
bunch of games this year.
Let's talk about.
Come As You Are.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Quantum Break did a Nirvana cover.
Choice is yours.
At least
Is this a Vocaloid meant to sound like Lana Del Rey?
Like that's the other thing is that these covers are fucking awful.
Well,
all of them.
They're all out of the same mold of like, let's take this popular song and make it a little more sedated,
Yeah,
a little more haunting.
They're trying to demake these songs.
They're all trying to Mad World them.
Yeah,
You know? Like
yeah,
they're like Battlefield had that White Stripes song.
That was more of a dubstep thing.
Well,
still,
yeah,
it's
you're
not,
right.
It's not
you're
a
right.
dubstep.
That wasn't
thing.
solid.
It's still a bad
They
cover.
did a bunch
of
of
that song.
dubstep.
That's not dubstep.
I've
God
heard
damn it.
dubstep. It was dubstep. Was it ska?
Just because it
Yeah,
has
it's
grindy
not.
bass doesn't mean
There's
it's
no,
dubstep.
if there's no drop, it's not dubstep.
And I will say, I actually appreciated the use of that cover of that song or remix or whatever it was, because I like that G.I. Joe trailer where Bruce Willis pops up out of that El Camino with those guns while that song plays. So it reminded me of that, a movie I did not see, but
enough.
sure did like that trailer.
Fair enough. I can't argue that.
I don't actually know.
Or I like that concept. I don't remember that. I like that concept of here's Bruce Willis.
All right. Well, the concept of Bruce Willis is not on this list.
So I
Don't stop that.
I think the reason this category is here is because this year this concept turned into like what you seem to think about that Arby's Twitter account of just like it is the most like soulless fucking marketing driven like
Terrible
attempt
self-parody
to continue capturing this feeling that you didn't actually earn.
Yeah. Yes.
I just think it's fucking
Jeff's
lazy.
point is the strongest in that they're trying to recapture.
But
it.
honest to
Gears
God,
1 is like doubly fucked.
And the thing is, it's not like you can't use pop music effectively in your
Right.
marketing
Totally.
materials.
Yeah.
Like, I actually really like those Watch Dogs ads that just use a fucking Run the Jewels song from the soundtrack. Like, they do a good job with that.
Totally.
But you're kind of talking about the aesthetic of like guns going off in slow
Look at how
motion.
heavy our
like,
shit is.
although-
It's so fucking fucked,
like
man.
you use the word haunting, like that's what they're going
well, it's,
for.
it's
They're
that,
trying
like,
to
There's
underwater
nothing-
sound of the guns. Of
Yeah.
like,
There's nothing fucking haunting about Gears of War.
This is not exclusive to games though, because the new Power Rangers trailer had a haunting cover of "Walk the Line" by Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
For a Power Rangers
you're
movie.
right. You're right. Some other I think I saw another movie trailer.
There's
recently that had
definitely
something
movie
very
trailers have been
similar.
doing this too.
It's,
Yes.
yeah,
It's
not
all
just
it's all just so
video games.
overwrought and derivative.
Yes.
It's been done so many times. Just fucking find another way to punch up your trailer.
Fucking stop.
Just stop.
how would you feel about like haunting songs done in like a real go
Okay.
get 'em actiony
Okay,
way? Let's turn it on its head.
Like the ska cover of Nine Inch Nails, Hurt.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
So it's
Okay.
like in the air tonight, but
Yeah.
ska.
Start taking some like
How about just anything
Yeah.
but ska?
Yeah.
Like, just
anything but ska.
no, anything but ska.
Oh, okay.
Like
Ska
Leonard Cohen,
version
like
of-
Little Blue Raincoat, and
Sure.
like ska version.
Okay.
Ska is the music of having a good time.
Yeah, here's the Oompa Band version
Yeah.
of Everybody Knows.
You might not like ska, but
Sky likes you.
those people at least seem like they're having fun. There are 20 people on that stage. How
Yeah.
could they not be having a good time?
It's like, I play trombone and I'm employed. This is exciting.
What do you think about checkerboard pants?
Is ska zoot suits?
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes-
That's more swing, but
the
you can, yeah.
Are the cherry poppers? Are they ska?
Yeah,
no.
no,
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they in fits and starts.
Okay.
Anyway, so this category, I don't know its top three, but I would say that did drive me absolutely up the fucking wall over and over again
It's
this
just
year.
it's time for a change.
I think it should be on the list. I think it's
All right, well, we have to cut some stuff from here.
yeah.
I think we can let the blind boxes go. That sucks, but it really doesn't suck as much as some of the other things on here.
It's been done okay.
Some games are handling it better than others.
Yeah.
yeah.
The only thing I'll give it is like sometimes the box animations are okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that Overwatch chest opening
Yeah, do a good
animation
job
is
with
real
that.
fucking good.
But
Not,
we're
not
wagging
big
our
on the
finger.
Gears ones. The Gears ones aren't great.
They're all right.
It's fine, but
kinda-
it's the animation stuff. It's the kind of user unfriendliness of
Yeah.
like breaking down these
Yeah,
cards and all
yeah,
that. That
that's-
takes forever.
Well, also,
all
they
kinda
draw in each thing.
You can hit
half
reveal all.
separately.
You
Yeah,
can
but I'm
reveal
saying
all.
it still animates in.
yeah. I like it to go slower. I reveal one at a time and look at each one.
Who's
It's
got
great.
that time?
Oh, it feels good.
Got to get to the next chest.
Make it worth my money.
All right, so blind boxes is going.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that stuff is super gross. But
I'm with you. I
It
don't.
is.
I don't like it.
yeah.
I'm
As
not a
long as
fan of
I
it.
don't feel like I need to buy them, like Overwatch. You
yeah,
buy the game.
yeah.
I have never once considered buying. Like you bought 50, and I remember talking to you about it, and you were like, "Yeah, the allure of loot boxes is dead now."
I think buying loot boxes in that game kind of ruins
Yeah.
yeah.
And they're still exciting to me, and I haven't spent a cent on them. So, like, I'm in some cases, I'm totally okay with them.
About a lot.
Man. I think the badly communicating with your fan base, it's like, yes, that is a worrisome thing. I hate it when shit like this happens, but I also feel like it's not as strongly awful as some of the other stuff on this list.
This seems like the stuff that, like, you know, the stuff we're talking about in PS4 Pro, like, that thing is still new enough to where, like,
there's time to course correct.
Yeah. They
yeah.
need to course correct on that, and maybe they will next year.
I'm assuming 6 months from now, new PS4 games are just going to support the Pro well,
Yeah.
right?
We'll see.
Well, like everything, everything we heard about, like developers found out like about the Pro and got briefed on it like what 6-8 months before they were suddenly required to be supporting it.
Something
after that deadline. You know what I mean? Like they had like very little time.
I still think there's some back of box stuff that needs to be figured out.
No, I agree with all that. All I'm saying is that in respect to will it get better, I think they totally have time to make it get better next year. But I don't think the Pro is by far the worst example of that category anyway.
Yeah, I think we could cut the fan base one.
Okay.
I think that's...
So then we just have to cut one more.
I would cut the patch thing because I just don't think that's a clean way of writing that.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a good, clean way to...
Stop shipping unfinished games?
But we've had that before.
Yeah, then, now, forever.
Like, that is a thing we have definitely called out in this category before.
But it feels like it's getting worse.
It's just worse in a different way now.
Like No Man's Sky was a really egregious example of that.
Like when we first put it on there, it was very much like, no, these games are literally broken in a variety of different ways. Where it's like, well, they're being fixed. They're just being fixed in a way that is extremely not optimal.
The thought of like a 10 to 40 gig fucking patch day one, right when you buy the game, Vinny said it earlier, is just ridiculous.
It's a big bummer.
I need them to stop that. I really do.
I'll give you
a lot of people would agree.
I'll give you a couple gigs.
Data caps. It's fucking.
Yeah, like this problem gets way worse now that a lot of big ISPs are starting to roll out data caps and stuff. Like it's
like what the hell is in that patch?
Rotten.
That requires that much space.
Like I just have to like shake my head every time I see like on my Twitter feed somebody talking about like bringing one of their consoles into their workplace to download games because their data caps are so rigorous now.
Stop data caps.
I mean, yeah.
Please stop data caps.
Presents. Please stop.
Scary part is I gather that we've been very lucky in that regard.
Yeah,
like
there have been
emails
places that have been dealing with more data caps
like
for a lot
emails
longer.
to the podcast from other countries all the time. People going like, "You guys, it's been this way forever here." Like,
I know a couple of people who cover games internationally in countries that have not as strong broadband penetration, and like just even being able to play the games they have been assigned to cover is a nightmare.
And it's like, this pisses me off because it increased the time between when I thought I can play my game to the time I can actually play my game. And like, I don't have a lot of spare time to do a lot of that shit.
Yeah.
And especially when I'm trying to get people together, it just fucks up a party.
Okay, all right, okay. So maybe we cut PC ports, but frame this for me in a way that is not just gigantic day one patches, because I think it's like way more than that.
Yeah, that's the thing is that it's a bundle of problems that are all kind of multifaceted.
But it all manifests in the problem of having to download a giant bulk of data before you can play the real game.
I think that's all we're speaking on. We don't need to provide a solution to this.
I mean,
like all I know is like I've got a huge patch to download.
The thing is like
as a consumer, I'm pissed off. And
given what it would mean for games if they were to actually stop gigantic day one patches, I think that's a net negative.
I do too.
How? I don't understand.
Because it's like, here's a broken game. Deal with it.
Yeah, again, it's what I said before.
No, I'm saying don't ship a broken game to begin with.
Well, then this is a wider.
They have to
it's a wider. We have to write a wider thing.
That's why I proposed renaming this to stop shipping unfinished games.
Yeah.
Like I literally said that.
We'd have to change that to still or something because that has been a problem since the beginning of game.
I know, but again, I think it's getting worse as patches are getting bigger, as data caps are getting more restrictive.
I think people are using that stuff, exploiting that stuff.
Yes,
and it's
people
segregating an audience in a way that is unfair to people who can't keep up.
Developers are pushing it more egregiously than they used to.
Like, man, it fucking sucked to go buy a disc, and I even knew that we had to do the
I would
install.
I would again like to emphasize, I don't necessarily think it is developers that are pushing this. I think it is publishers that are pushing this.
So
I think that they are the
developers are obviously doing what they can with the time they are allotted.
Yeah, because the realities of game development prevent, honestly, like games shipping on the kinds of schedules that they have to. in the state that we want them to be in out of the box. That's just not there is a conflict between the way game development tends to go and the way that publishers want it to go. And that is
right.
It's an old conflict, but it's one that this is the closest thing to like an armistice they have been able to
Publishers
establish.
need to adapt their business practices to the reality of game development. That's what I'm saying.
So is this then like stop putting 2/3 of your game on your disc? Is that
stop
what this
relying
is?
on-
I mean, again, like what I don't understand what was wrong with the phrasing I already offered,
Stop shipping broken games.
or unfinished games. Yeah.
That's the thing is that they're not always broken. It's just sometimes they're just in a state that is not the same as what
So
everyone who has
unfinished is
Yeah.
is a nuance, is a better way of saying that.
Yeah,
than
I would say
broken.
so.
I think that's a different argument than what we were originally presenting, or at least what I'm thinking of. But,
I mean, I think it's all connected.
right. I'm just saying I don't care the reason why they're doing it. I just need them to stop doing that.
I just don't think they can. I just think, realistically speaking, like there are trends here we are talking about that I feel like have a much more like, here is why you shouldn't do this anymore. Like there's a clear understanding of why this is a bad trend, whereas this is a very multifaceted thing that is tangled up in a lot of different things, and it's not a simple
Definitely, yeah.
stop.
But you're relying on me as a publisher. If it's a publisher, you're relying on me to pay for a fast internet connection to finish your game, right? Like, what if I don't want to pay for that? What if I'm like, I just reduced my plan so I can check email,
Right.
and like now I bought an offline game that when I put it in the thing, I can connect to the internet enough where it knows it needs a patch, but like where I have to wait another 2 hours for this game I just bought on a disc to install and then patch. Like, you're relying on me to pay the difference.
Yeah.
And like, that's fucking shit. And like, some games I've seen let you not update and play offline. Like, that's cool.
But then in the case of something like No Man's Sky, you're missing like huge functionality because it's not on the disc. You have to download it.
And like, I think it was different when it's like I bought a map pack or DLC and like I get it, I got to download this stuff. But
Well, that's opt-in. That's not the core
Yeah.
game that you're missing.
right, so like, yeah, I don't know. There's something on like, not everybody's doing it obviously, but when it
Yeah.
happens, it feels like bullshit, and it's a reliance on the consumer to make up the difference.
Yep.
And that feels a little exploitative.
Yep. I totally agree.
I think Brad's characterization is pretty good. It's kind of a good blanket statement.
Yeah, unfinished, I think, is the phrasing.
I mean, should we add on discs? Stop shipping unfinished.
I mean, I feel comfortable saying they shouldn't digitally ship unfinished games either.
Well,
but-
the difference there is you're already committing to downloading the whole thing. Like
Yeah.
you
Right.
as you are
Right.
opting into already downloading the whole thing, so it kind of doesn't matter if it's split up into a base
I mean, it's
game
still-
and a patch because you're downloading it all anyway.
It'll still negatively impact your data cap, but it's yeah. At that point, if you're agreeing to already download a 40 gig game,
Well-
the thing on top of that seems like you probably already don't have that limit.
As far as I can tell, both services, when you buy a game, you are downloading the full patched version of the game at that time, at the point of sale. Like, it's
Right.
not like you download 40 gigs and then another 20. Like, you
Right.
just get whatever the full install size is up front. So I don't think that's a problem.
yeah, that's probably a way to word this.
I mean, eventually the reality is just going to be the solution is no more discs.
Yeah, but
we're not there yet.
But that is proving to be way further off than any of us
Yeah,
imagined.
Well, it's like two things going in opposite directions, right?
Right.
Where it's
Yeah.
like
Right.
data caps and shit coming in,
Yeah.
and then like not the infrastructure to support no
Yeah.
discs,
Yeah.
basically.
And never the twain shall meet.
Like, games just keep getting bigger,
Right.
and like this side's going like this, and this side's pulling like this, and
Yeah.
it fucking sucks on some parts. Like, I bet if you had your data cap and you let your Steam library update automatically, like, you could be in trouble.
I have burned through my first. Like, so it's like they have 2 grace months where you can go over. I went way over the last 2 months, and this month will be like the last grace month. And then because I have a job to do that involves a lot of internet, I'm gonna have to pay them an additional $50 a month to get what I need.
I think out of this list, one of these is literally just bad marketing we
Yeah.
don't like, whereas
Yeah.
the rest are all actually like farther reaching issues.
Oh,
like
the pop song.
Yeah, like I hate the pop song stuff. It drives me up the wall. But I don't think it's as egregious a thing as the other stuff we're talking about here.
yeah.
And
Like,
all three others are detrimental to people who spend money on
Their
games
experiences, yeah.
in one way or another.
Whereas this is just like, well, I think your marketing is lazy and shitty, which it is, but it's not the same.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, like the song stuff is irksome, and goofy and
just kind of pathetic in a way.
yeah, like it's sad and pathetic and in some sense actually fun to complain about. 'Cause
Yeah.
it just you just look at it and go, wow, you guys are idiots.
You're just not even trying.
But
but I don't think it's top
that,
three.
that's just, I feel like that's misrepresenting the art of games in some way that sucks. But yeah, no, that I could cut that.
I think that top three is definitely the most. I want this shit to stop.
All right, cut.
I mean, but just from the wording of this, there's no way I can't say I would love to have finished games ship on a disc.
Right.
Like, that seems like a great thing for the industry. Like, because that would solve the problem of a bad PC port if I can buy the finished version of that on a disc.
Make going gold mean something again.
Yeah.
I don't like your phrasing, but I hear what you're saying.
Look, I know what you're pulling from that, but that was not actually what I was going for. But I also do think like going gold used to actually mean something.
Yeah. Like going gold has just become a press release now that
It's like, hey, by the way, development will continue, but we have sent this thing to manufacturing.
on top of that, like half the time the big like chest beating press release about like so and so went gold, it's like, we know you're shipping on a disc. You had to have gone gold like 3 to 5 weeks ago to make that date. Why are you telling us now? Like, it's just a way to
or at least
hype
like
up the release
you've been
of your
in
game.
submission for so
Right.
long now
Right.
that like
Yeah.
here's the arbitrary date that we were forced into burning a disc, so we had to make it at least mostly not broken to pass whatever the publishers think is their, whatever their TCRs, DRCs are.
Right.
Like, something's off. Like, the technology and the way this all works is not gelling together. Like hard drive spaces on shipped consoles aren't big enough.
Not nearly.
Data caps, speeds are not big enough to support. Like, if it were a problem of like, well, fuck, it's a big patch, but you download it in a minute and a half, you're okay, and we've all got tons of space. Like, that would still be a problem for some people who don't have internet access. But like, right now, when you have to wait so long to get a patch or remove stuff from your hard drive to patch a game you want to play, then it starts conflicting with a bunch of other stuff.
I feel like it's telling that the only way that both the Xbox One and the PS4 experiences feel streamlined and correct is if you add hard drives to them. Whether that be external drives or actually ripping open your PS4 and putting a new drive in there. As much as the data stuff and the data caps are a nightmare, let's be real, these consoles are not built to handle the number of games like people who are dedicated to these platforms will ultimately want to play on them. These hard and even with the Pro, like the 1 terabyte, that's not enough.
I filled up my 1 terabyte recently.
Yeah.
Friends, let me tell you about
What?
a little something called the Coleco Chameleon.
Okay.
No patches.
Oh yeah.
The way games were meant to be.
Yeah,
That's
right.
exactly
You
what
just
it is.
put it in and it goes.
I mean,
That's like part of it is I don't want to end up sounding like that.
Oh, totally,
Because I think
totally,
that
totally.
games as a service
Yeah.
are important and awesome, and they do really interesting things that extend the life of a game, and have really gone a long way. Like additional content, patches to polish things up that are obscure and weird. Like, I don't have a problem with any of that.
The inherent concept of patching is not bad.
Yeah, like
Right.
updates are a fact of software development. I don't think
Yeah.
anybody would disagree with that. It's specifically these egregious edge cases of like you left major components out of this game that you expected people to download when they bought a disc on day one.
Are
and
we
came
sure
home with
that's exactly what it is, or that it's just
No,
like a
I think
poorly
there's other things for me.
optimized like patch?
Yeah,
like they have to submit.
There's other things where these games are so big now, and they're only going to get bigger as we move into higher textures and 4K stuff, where you need to check in an hour and a half or so before you want to play a game to know if you're ready to play a game. And like, that's a problem. That's kind of goes back to what you said. Like, what's the solution to that? I'm not sure, but we're ahead of the curve on too much stuff. Where if you don't have a fast enough connection or a data cap or something, I might not be able to play with you. Like, and you're like, I own the game. I don't have the right version. Want to check in 2 hours?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's a real thing that happens right now.
right
you know?
now, and like, yeah, that fucking sucks. And like, sometimes I don't know. Like, I don't keep abreast of when a patch is coming out for Overwatch or something like that. Like I don't know. But if you were to like be like, let's go home and go play, and like I had my laptop here on hotel internet or something like that, might be fast enough to do an online match, but not fast enough to download 40 gigs. I'd be out of luck.
So you're talking more just patches in general, just like huge updates, or
I don't.
are we sticking to the day one thing? I'm
No,
still
I
not
don't.
sure.
I don't know if it's necessarily day one, but it's like it just something is off.
Does this beat early review copies?
I think it does.
Yeah, I think so.
Like I think we've made our case for why that stuff is anti-consumer and it's a problem. But in the end, like the reality is, this is the way coverage stuff is kind of moving, and it's up to and publishers are ultimately allowed to decide who they want to send stuff to.
At the end of the day, it is their prerogative to set whatever policy they want, and like I will give them some faint praise for, at least in Bethesda's case, coming out and saying it.
Yeah,
like just at least messaging clearly,
it in perhaps a disingenuous way. But
some of their
messaging.
rationale was definitely questionable, but at least they came out and said, "Hey, this is what we're doing now."
But I think that the ongoing trend of, like you guys said, like relying on the consumer to pay their way into getting the ideal experience from these games.
The way Vinny phrased it was pretty much exactly what I wanted to get across. Like,
I think that wins.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please stop.
Good phrasing, Vinny.
Thanks.
It's just such a fucking weird, nuanced thing.
It is.
I mean, obviously, it takes like a ton of moving parts to fix it, and like none of us are game developers, so we can't speak to every aspect of it.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, like
at the end of the day, it's a bad experience for
yes.
like actual real people.
Yes.
It's
People-
not some theoretical.
Yes.
It's
for people who go out and spend $60 on a game on release day, like they shouldn't have to care about that stuff. Like it's just it sucks for them. And
Agreed.
Especially for people who aren't power users that are just, want to buy a PS4 and they just want to play a few games, and just like coming into that experience full on, like that's a really grating thing.
And like let's not beat around the bush here. Like a lot of the companies doing this stuff are multi-billion-dollar corporations who fucking have it in their power to make this better.
Mm-hmm.
And they just aren't.
I agree.
And that sucks.
All right.
Well, let's get to the positives.
Yeah.
I'm ready to get back on it.
Get all the bitching out
I want to
of the
get posy.
Are you guys good? You need a break, or can we move on into our last category?
I could use one real quick.
Okay, all right. Let's take a real fast break, and we'll come back with our last
We're
category.
going to talk about fast break?
Yeah.
All right, with all of our crotchety old man grousing out of the way.
Today, anyway.
Yeah.
What?
For now.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up day 3 with a fun, high spirited, positive category.
Yeah. I like
Upbeat.
that.
Best surprise, which is basically what it sounds like. Kind of games we weren't expecting much from or didn't even know about, and then they kind of came out of nowhere, and we went, "Wow, this rules!"
Or maybe had super low expectations based on
yes,
something
also
else.
yes, also yeah, totally. Here's what's on the list: Let It Die, Pocket Card Jockey, Overcooked, Watch Dogs 2, Overwatch, Doom, Oxenfree, King's Quest, Dragon Quest Builders, Thumper, Stardew Valley, The Last Guardian, Hitman, Enter the Gungeon, Devil Daggers, American Truck Simulator, Event Zero, Shadow Warrior 2, Virginia, and Firewatch.
How could any of us know like what Firewatch was? Nobody knew.
We had no indication.
It's a huge
asked
surprise
so
to
many
find out what that
times.
game was.
Despite months of investigation,
Yeah.
Could have been
we
a
never-
dual stick shooter. We didn't know.
we never really did nail down the nature of Firewatch.
With the controller support being broken when I played it, I'm still not 100% sure what Firewatch.
That's fair.
a
Firewatch
mystery.
doesn't actually need to be on here. I just wanted to make that dumb.
Firewatch is a good game.
It's a great game, but
yeah, like
It was what they sold it as.
Yeah.
So
All right, you had your fun.
I had my fun. That can go now.
Take it off the list.
Is Overwatch that surprising?
Yeah, whoever put that on here put a question mark after it for good reason.
I put it there because I don't like those games at all, but I really like Overwatch.
Well,
Yeah,
I
And
guess
think about
so.
it in terms of like, hey, they rescued assets from a failed MMO and
Yeah.
actually turned it into
That is-
And they've never done a shooter before.
and then said, hey, we're making a TF2 ripoff, and then actually made that awesome.
I guess,
Yeah.
but I mean, like Blizzard's MO forever has been spinning straw into gold. Like they
Sure.
take genres that are already established and do them better than anybody
I mean,
else.
also my point for this one is that I had zero expectation for that game going in. I mean, I know Blizzard has this pedigree, and obviously they hooked me in with Hearthstone in a way that no other collectible card game ever did. But I don't play competitive first-person shooters much, and I wasn't going into this expecting anything. And it is not only my game; it's my game of the year and the game I played the most this year.
That's fine, but I don't feel I don't see how expectations could be anything other than like as high as possible for a new Blizzard game.
I mean,
I
the thing
think
is,
Blizzard has perhaps the most unassailable track record in the entire game
but
industry.
like, I guess I just don't have that like feeling for Blizzard because it's like World of Warcraft was a game that I really enjoyed and have fallen off from. I don't give a shit about Hearthstone.
but they're all like excellent games for the genres they
Yes.
fall. Like I just there is nothing surprising to me about the fact that Overwatch is a great game because they make nothing but great games.
But it's not just a great game; it's a fucking phenomenon. That thing.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
it's only
like-
surprising how good it was. Like I expected it to be good. That's not a surprise.
Yeah.
But it's really like it's got several of us that don't typically play competitive multiplayer.
But also,
shooters into
they were running alphas since last year, and they were all great. Like every time I played that game for 6 or 8 months before it came out, I was like, well, this seems really good.
And I'll chalk it up like that aspect of it to me just not paying enough attention early on because I'd seen signals that people were enjoying this game, but it just never I never felt the need to investigate myself because I just figured it would be another game that would seem fun, but I would eventually write off. It ended up being my Splatoon this year.
Yeah, like I just I mean, it's on me. I actively ignored the game because I thought it was going to be a MOBA-esque third person or first person shooter thing. It got lost to me in the shuffle of those
I
games.
thought when they first announced it and started talking about it and showing trailers and stuff, I just thought it looked fucking lame.
So when I played it and liked it, and then couldn't stop playing it, and
I grew to love it.
I just I think it has nothing to do with the quality of the game. It's just it doesn't really fit the spirit of this category.
I mean, I think
because Blizzard makes great games. Like they have been showing this game for ages before it came out, and it looked great every single time. Like there was nothing surprising about the fact that Overwatch is a great game.
I think saying there's nothing surprising is underselling it. That said, if you want to say there are 3 bigger surprises on this list, absolutely.
That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at.
Yes, I will agree with that.
Like it's not going to hang next to some of these like totally out of left field things.
Yeah, but I will say I was no game surprised me personally more this year than that one.
Is there anything besides just the sheer fact that it released that was surprising about The Last Guardian? Because I think everything about that game is kind of not a surprise at all.
Exactly what you
It's
expected
just
it
the
was gonna
fact
be.
that it came out.
Well, it's not just the fact that it came out, but it's not an unmitigated disaster. Which I mean, I understand that Ueda and that team there's a pedigree there, but the sheer length of time that thing went through and the reported number of different teams that touched that thing at various points.
Yeah.
You could totally see that thing just being a fucking Frankenstein's monster of bad ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? There are some sloppy parts of that game, but in general, I feel like they hit the thing they had said they wanted to do with that game certainly better than I was expecting. That said, again, not necessarily a top 3 here, but I do think that there is a fair amount of worthwhile surprise coming out of that game being something that I can actually recommend to people without a ton of caveats.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the I'm a bit surprised it's not a mess, but also least surprising what that game is.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that piece for it, and I think it can go.
All right. You guys heard of Hitman?
I've heard of it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised.
Yes, I hate all the Hitman games.
Yeah.
Except
I didn't
one.
hate them. Man, holy shit.
Yeah,
who could have expected that game to take this office by storm the way it did?
I am still surprised that stuff works as well.
Yeah.
One of those ways, and maybe this is actually not what this category is, but you question how aware did they get lucky? Did a bunch of stuff come together and was yeah, we never thought that would all work, but it did in a way that's
I think
amazing.
they knew what they were doing.
That might be selling their talent and ability short.
I'm trying not to,
Yeah,
but
they probably knew what they were doing, but there's always that question mark of will people take to this? It is.
Yeah,
I
don't want
pretty different from what other Hitman games have been.
I would say for my part, the impression I got when they first announced this thing as an episodic series was this was the only way we were going to be able to get a new Hitman game made. It felt very much like we have to be able to test the waters with this because there is not necessarily confidence within, let's say, the publishing arm of this that a full-on Hitman experience, the way you are used to, is a worthwhile investment. Yeah. And, in this case, they took what could have been, a real tentative, not great idea, and they ran with it. They fucking spooled that fucking lead into gold. And they made what I would agree is probably the best Hitman experience I've ever had.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it is very worth recognizing how much work that took to keep that stuff going in the episodic format to make sure that stuff came out regularly, that it was supported and didn't just die on the vine.
Yeah.
Because we've seen that before in episodic stuff.
It goes all the way back to Absolution. I didn't really care. I thought Absolution was okay at the time because I was not a diehard Hitman fan, but people were
parts.
so unhappy with what they did with that game that I don't know if you guys know this. They came out some number of months afterward and fucking apologized to the Hitman fan base for it. Like there is a letter that you can go find from like the head of IO or whatever effectively saying like, yeah, we blew it and we're sorry and we're going to work to regain your trust. So like from that point on, the idea that another Hitman game would be good was in doubt immediately. And then leading up to this thing, like all the shit around the business model and how it changed
late and got weird late.
Like they so overhauled the business plan for this thing that they refunded all the people who had pre-ordered it because they had completely rewritten like what episodes would be and how they would be distributed and on what schedule. So like it seemed from a business perspective that it was going to be a disaster. Like there was no reason to think this thing was going to be any good in any sense at all, and it turned out to be one of the best things that came out this year.
I think that game's on our list.
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
It is both a brilliant game and a huge surprise that it turned out as well as it did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think Oxenfree hangs on this list, but I will say that is definitely an out of left field. I didn't expect anything from this, and I found myself really hooked into it in a way that I didn't expect. It's good storytelling. The dialogue system stuff in that game is really well done. It has a neat style to it. I think that, at the very least, it's a great establishing point for Night School Studio as like a developer that I will pay attention to now.
Totally.
And another studio that came out of that, I believe that Telltale machine.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's ex-Telltale folks that made that.
Yeah, it is.
Bet you guys were surprised where Virginia went
Where did it go?
on this list.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Virginia was a good surprise for me. Like I started playing that game, I had no idea what that game was,
Same here.
and then really liked it maybe more than some other people did.
Oh, I didn't like where it went. No,
You were surprised though.
Yeah, I was surprised
You were
by how
surpri-
good the music was.
Yeah.
For sure. I was definitely surprised by some like poorly timed jump cuts. That's for sure.
I was surprised at how well they worked.
I also especially did not like the ending. It really fell flat.
Yeah, the ending was.
Yeah.
I'm going to take it off this
I
list.
say again,
Good
I
job.
like the themes of that game
Yeah.
and its story. I don't necessarily love the way they executed on it.
Yep.
I think
It tried to go places and
Didn't always get there.
yeah.
I think the way Pocket Card Jockey just came out of absolutely nowhere, and it was
For a
just
solitaire game, yeah.
delightfully weird portable game. It was a really cool thing, but it doesn't hang. But it's worth mentioning.
Totally.
I don't think like there are surprising things about Let It Die, but I don't think that it stays on this list.
I mean, I think what's surprising is that the Suda free-to-play game, which sounded like just kind of a rotten idea on paper, turned out to be this actually
Pretty
kind
okay,
of fucking
yeah.
cool and fun thing that I am motivated to keep playing.
having talked to a couple of people, and I hate to go secondhand on some of this stuff, it sounds like the back parts of that game are the horror show that you thought that the whole thing was going to be.
In a free-to-play sense?
Yeah.
That
That's
sucks.
a shame.
All right, well,
So that's
let's not keep it on.
that's
here.
hard to. Yeah, it's hard to kind of just take that stuff at face value, but also like I feel like there's enough stuff up in the air with how that game's business model affects that game that I don't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I need
putting
to
it
see
here.
more of that.
Well, I feel like I will enjoy it until I get to that place.
Yeah,
At least.
basically.
already have.
I think that's where I'm at with it too. The fact that I enjoyed it at all was surprising.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
But-
totally.
That was kind of how I felt about Enter the Gungeon too. Like that was not a game I had any expectation for. I thought it was just going to be a fairly clean rip of Nuclear Throne
Yeah.
style action game, and like there is a tightness to that game that I did not expect.
It's the exact opposite for me. It looked like exactly my kind of game, and I felt like it was not tight enough for what I was looking for in that kind of game at all.
Yeah,
Like the shooting just never clicked for me.
I locked in hard with it. I probably put 20 hours into that game, and I enjoyed it all the while.
We
through.
also had a build of that game for a real long time, so I'd kind of been checking in on their Steam updates for like a year or whatever since they announced it. Like was it PSX last year?
Yeah.
No, it was the year
No, it was
before.
at least 2 or 3
Maybe 2
taxes
years
ago.
ago?
I feel like I
Yeah,
said when I
yeah.
first saw that thing.
I don't have strong feelings about that game. I don't think it hit its mark as well as some other games did, and like also, I think it's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah, that's fine. I think like I like it better honestly than something like a Nuclear Throne, which I did not expect at all, and I had a ton of fun with that game with zero expectation for it.
Yeah, there are definitely some cool things in Enter the Gungeon. I don't dislike the game,
Yeah.
but I kind of wish it was better.
Fair.
I came into Shadow Warrior 2 only knowing a little bit about Shadow Warrior, and that it was kind of a Duke Nukem style first-person shooter
Right,
game,
yeah.
and that people kind of liked that reboot I was not expecting like a loot-based shooter. I was not expecting to have like this super well customized, power system,
Right.
and the mobility of this character. I fully expected the humor to be completely lost on me, but it was not too offensive. Looked pretty good, played pretty good, and it also brought us another Stan Bush hit. Yes.
Whoa.
Oh, that's
You guys worked this out ahead of time?
Jeez.
This is Warrior from Stan Bush. They brought him in
Yeah.
to do
I think
new songs.
getting Stan Bush to do your theme song is amazing, but we've talked about this before. I can't fucking handle the key change in the middle of the song. Like, I can't do it.
You can't hit it?
Like, no.
If you practice, you
no,
can do
like it sucks. Like the verse and the chorus.
Warrior! Come on.
I would also like to emphasize that I think we could get Stan Bush in here to do a theme song for us if we wanted to.
Should. Stan Bush presents best music.
If we gave him $20 and gas money, I feel like Stan Bush would be here tomorrow.
Give me a number or a Twitter handle.
I think you're
could make that
slightly
happen.
underselling Stan Bush here. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that, but
Stan Bush is an all right guy, but I think like the RPG and loot stuff being in that game was a pretty big.
Yeah, it was a
awesome
big surprise to
Like
me.
that game seems kind of cool.
Yeah, it does seem kind of cool. Didn't play enough of it to like fight for it on this list.
yeah, I was
but
gonna say like
I was pleasantly surprised.
my surprise
for
ended
sure.
up being kind of the opposite, where you were kind of talking it up, and I was like, a loot game, all right, yeah, fine. And then
Could be cool.
I
yeah.
brought it home, started playing it, or downloaded it and started playing it, and I was like,
I'm not
I
sure
don't
what
think I like anything about the way this game plays.
really like
Yeah.
even the mobility and stuff and being able to combine weapons. And didn't do it for you. Huh?
It's just I don't think any of it feels good.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I thought
I
some
don't
of it
know.
felt really
Yeah.
good. Some of the sword fighting and the melee stuff, and the shooting, I thought felt pretty good.
Yeah, maybe I need to play more of it, but
Maybe.
it's just
I wouldn't mind trying that one co-op. Yeah, and it is like 4-player co-op
Right.
through the campaign.
It's a lot of cool ideas, way cooler ideas than you would expect out of a
Totally.
sequel to Shadow Warrior.
Absolutely.
A sequel of a reboot of
Yeah.
Shadow Warrior.
I'm not sure that it hangs, but like I said, I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think that's a fair point for it.
It might not hang, but does it low wang?
Oh my
all right,
God!
now you have to delete
okay,
it.
we have to cut this from the list.
Get it out of here.
Super Hot didn't surprise anybody, right? I think we were all kind of
We were all
curious
excited
about
about
that
that
game.
what I
With the
expected
browser
to see.
demo and the Kickstarter and
Yeah.
stuff.
No, I like.
Yeah, I don't know
So
if it
it-
should be added here.
Like, if you think about Super Hot in terms of what that Kickstarter demo was and some of that stuff, like they kind of hinted at like, oh, there's a little bit of art here, but then like what the actuality of Super Hot is and its story and like the outside of game or the outside of action stuff, I thought that stuff was really awesome and a huge surprise.
I feel like the story stuff, like, yeah, the Kickstarter didn't really hint at that, but as far as what you're doing in the game and what it looks like, I felt it was
Totally.
pretty much
Yeah,
exactly what I expected.
They did the thing that you wanted them to do.
I also feel like every conversation I had about that game leading up to its release was someone coming to me like, motherfucker, you need to play Super Hot. Like, people knew that thing was going to be cool.
Yeah, but I would say that like the ways it was cool were very unexpected to me, and by the end of that game, it was definitely like it was a brand new level of I need to fucking tell somebody about this.
Right. I think the more surprising thing to me was that they were able to keep the pedal down the whole time
Yeah.
during that game.
Like it's not a long game, but that's
No.
for a reason. You
Yeah.
know, like it fucking they burn it up.
Oh no, it's a tight 3 or 4 hours. You know, like
Yeah.
that's what they do what they need to do with the time they have.
But I think from that demo, which I think I watched Drew play on UPF
Yeah.
one time, that thing was kind of on my radar in a way that's like,
Right.
this seems very special.
Hey,
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I'm cool with
Thanks,
I'm
Drew.
cool with keeping it in consideration. I don't necessarily think it is top 3, but I'd be fine with it just being in the conversation for a little longer.
Sure, it's not on this list. I'll add it.
I would add it for now.
Go ahead and type it down, but I think
you're
you know,
already-
like I feel like we're fighting for a third game here because I really think Doom makes this list.
Doom fucking has to be
Doom
on this
makes the
list. Like,
list.
there is no way this is like the textbook definition of a giant fucking surprise.
I agree.
And part of that is that they put out that demo, they put out that multiplayer
The beta,
beta, and
yeah.
it was shit.
Yep.
And that was not surprising because the full game came out and that multiplaer still shit.
Yeah, it's not great. It's not great, but
Snap Map also not as cool as it sounded.
No, it wasn't.
It's a really cool idea that like you can't. Like there are things in there where they had the right idea of like I just want to join a random Snap Map game, whatever the rules are, but then none of that works. Like,
People
it
have done.
seems hard to find people playing it.
People have done cool things with Snap Maps.
Yes,
since it
they
came
have.
out.
They have, but it's like hard to experience that stuff. 'Cause a lot of his multiplayer
the creation
focused.
tool stuff. Not
I will say that the
but-
thing about Doom surprising to me, and I know some people didn't like it or got tired of the kills, the glory kills,
Yeah.
was how well they integrated that into keeping the combat
Yeah.
flowing with
Yeah.
ammo and
Yeah.
health.
That,
and stuff.
I think like making that a gameplay relevant thing, I think
smart.
is really
Gameplay
smart.
critical,
was,
yeah.
was cool. You got you could change stuff in a way that is so not Doom.
It added flow to a game that like didn't have it in that way before.
It's not quite to the level of something like a Devil May Cry, but there is a little bit of an aspect of a stylish, like varying up your shit and like
and almost like a puzzle element in some encounters where you're like, oh well, I got to use this chainsaw. I need a lot of.
It's almost like a high-speed super hot if you think about it.
Almost.
I mean, there's
Not
kind of
quite.
the combat design. There's that leapfrog effect of like, I'm burning ammo. Now I'm going to do the thing that gets me ammo back.
Right.
Now I'm going to use the chainsaw to get the thing I get out of the chainsaw. Then I'm going to do the thing to get more chainsaw juice or whatever. Like you're constantly jumping over one thing to do the next thing, and it keeps you varying your shit. But that's just one aspect of how good that game is.
And even like even in the context of like starting that game and going like this single player campaign might be good.
Yeah.
The very idea that a Doom campaign, or even just a single player shooter campaign. Period. Could be amazing in 2016 is mind blowing. The fact that they like got the writing down so well, they nail Doom in a way that I think the original games kind of don't. Like they find a way.
Well, they evolve it.
No, they find a way to work like a lore and universe into Doom in a way that the first two games relegated to the one page of text at the very end.
Right. They're able to extract a Doom from the old Dooms that was merely implied for the most part.
It's the thing that like Doom 3 tried to do in this incredibly overwrought, awful way of like, walk up to this keypad and use it. It's like, this is not fucking Doom anymore.
No.
Or like they tried to write a story around Doom 3 that would have fell completely flat.
Yeah.
I think I hear what you're saying.
And
it makes Doom 1 and 2 better.
Yes.
Totally. Sure,
And does a bunch of new things that you never thought Doom was capable of.
Right.
There was so much stacked against it, between the the really shitty beta, for the multiplayer stuff, but also like review copies came out super late.
And it was the first example, of
and like the
Bethesda
previous
not
games
sending out like. And at that time, before any publishers had come out and said this is our new policy, like because I tried to solicit a review copy like 2 weeks early, and then we finally got the response like, yes, we will be providing review copies like on the morning of launch.
It's a really weird thing because on some level we're totally rewarding them for their bullshit policy.
Well, but
because like even before they had come up with the policy, like this has to be that felt like a reaction to just how bad that multiplayer beta was received.
But that actually strengthens Doom's position in this category because what I'm saying is at that time, before it was a blanket policy, anytime a publisher came out and said yes, you'll get it on release day, like instant red flag, like this thing is not good and they know it.
For a game that's not like a huge server-based thing.
Right, right. Yes. Like the immediate assumption when you found out they weren't going to send out copies early was like, well, this thing must be a stinker.
It's very easy to believe that a Doom campaign would be trash. And what they showed of it at E3, it looked neat, I guess.
And really?
Like also,
I don't know.
Like parts of it,
that gameplay trailer, I did not like.
Did nothing for me.
The way that they presented it at their E3 thing was not, it was okay. It wasn't mind-blowing.
Yeah.
I just feel like they never knew how to present that game.
Also, let's not forget that they announced they were making this game in 2008. Like, it took 8 years from announce to release for this thing.
And probably some reboots in there.
No. All that shit.
The whole thing.
So, yeah, all that shit leaked out from back when they were just making, like, Call of Demons, and it was on Earth, and it looked literally like a Call of Duty game with fucking Doom monsters in it. And, like, you assumed, like, well, they scrapped that, but, like, whatever they come up with to replace it can't be much better, right? Like,
yeah, it was impossible to imagine a scenario that in which a Doom game comes out this year and is anything other than a disappointment.
Totally. Yeah. Totally.
Especially with the bits of information they did put out, that beta they put out, like that just, if anything, that just affirmed it more and more. You're like, all right, well, yeah, I guess like whatever. I don't know what I would want out of a new Doom game. It's probably impossible to make one anyway.
By the time,
holy shit.
By the time the release day rolled around, which again was when we were able to play it because we couldn't get it before that, I was at the point, and I'm like Doom fan number one. I was at the point where I was downloading it and starting to play it purely out of obligation to cover it. I was that far gone from assuming it could be anything other than mediocre at that point that I was like, well, I'll fire this up, we'll do the quick look, but I'm just expecting nothing. And by level 2, I was like, what is going on here? This might be and then I got level. By the time I was on level 3, I was like, this is one of the best shooters I've played.
I was like
in
2/3
years.
of the way through Doom when the like pre-E3 like judging like week or 3 days, whatever it was, happened this year, and like, people were down there seeing new games, talking to people, like, kind of a collection of developers and publishers and press and all this other stuff kind of intermingling for a little bit. And it just became, at every opportunity, let's walk off into a corner here and talk about how fucking awesome Doom is.
And like how much you wish you were still playing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Doom's on there.
Yeah.
Doom's on the
think-
list.
I think Hitman and Doom for sure. It seems like
Yeah.
we're pretty in agreement there.
And-
I think the third should be Stardew.
Stardew? I think so.
Can we go through the other ones? Because
sure.
I think Stardew is definitely a strong contender for that. I would just like to peel a couple more
Yeah, there
off
are
that
other
are less
good
obvious
ones here. Yeah.
Like so for American Truck Simulator, which I do not think makes this top 3, I will simply say that was my most surprising experience this year because I have something of a history with trucking games, shall we say.
Okay. Yeah.
No real interest in that genre for the most part. And honestly, I had written off the whole Euro Truck Simulator phenomenon as this weird thing that I would never understand. And 50 hours of American Truck Simulator later, I feel like I have to issue a mea culpa on that and say maybe there was something there all along that I just didn't understand.
Born to Truck.
It is
Alex
not.
Navarro.
It is not a great game. It is mostly a reskin of what they have done in those Euro Truck games, but it is a solid reskin that I wish had more of the U.S. than just 3 states right now.
Such a bad America.
Yeah, it's just the Southwest and parts of California, but nonetheless, I think what is there is a surprisingly effective and cool and just like a relaxing thing to play that I really enjoyed this year. But it does not make the top 3.
I would say the same about Dragon Quest Builders.
Yeah.
That game is surprising because it's like, you think about a Dragon Quest game where you kind of did some Minecraft stuff like that. Probably not. It is way better than that.
It's like surprisingly addictive.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to put down.
But also hearing that like when you change chapters, like it all kind of resets.
Yeah.
Like that is extremely
There
disappointing.
are like 8 really bad things about the way the like quests and timer stuff are
Yeah.
designed in that game. Like
Yeah.
it could be one of the best games of the year if they had done like those 8 things differently. But
so
that's-
charming.
Yeah,
Like the way
the
it
music
kind of
is-
ties into the original
Yeah,
game
yeah.
is amazing.
Yeah. It's kind of great, but there's a bunch of stuff design wise that really drags it down.
Yeah. So I would probably cut that.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys lost your shit over Devil Daggers.
Yeah.
Really
I mean,
did.
for like a weekend.
Right.
I mean, to be
then-
fair, it was an incredible weekend.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I played that thing like nonstop for that weekend.
Yeah, there's just not enough there, for more than a weekend or
But it
so.
was very much an out of left field
It was
thing.
totally surprising.
I think it was like we learned of it the day that it released and
Yeah,
downloaded
yeah.
it. It was like it came out on that Friday and we downloaded it and like played it all through UPF and
Yeah.
all weekend.
Yep. No, it's really, really cool, and it came out of left field, but
Yeah.
it's not as
not top
robust as some of these other things. And on that note, Overcooked is one of my favorite games of the year. But it's just a fun, chaotic multiplayer thing that no one really expected
I
before release.
feel like that thing is exactly what it set out.
Yeah.
Like
It's just- I just-
I don't think
What's
it's shocking.
surprising
about
is that
so I'm,
surprising.
I'm saying we should cut it.
Yeah, I knew nothing about that game prior
Yeah.
to it coming out, honestly,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was one of my favorite multiplayer experiences this year.
Me too.
I think when I scroll through the Steam list every week and see, local co-op, I almost literally, and quite often literally, roll my eyes.
They just roll back in your head.
Yeah, because there's so many of them. But like this one, and it, by looking at screenshots, looks exactly like everything else. This one's actually fun.
But they actually nailed it.
That was
It's very unique,
Like,
very
to-
fun.
I'm gonna say it is exactly like everything else. There is
Oh, it's
nothing
better.
special
It's
about
better than that.
Overcooked.
What?
It's more
It is-
fun
it
than
is-
most of
it
those
is
games.
the
a
whole
decent one of
concept and
those.
I mean, just
what other games are like
it
that?
feels
from a gameplay
great.
perspective?
Diner Dash. I mean, there's like a zillion games about dining. They just happened to make one that
think-
was 4-player.
just by virtue that a lot of us wanted to play it after the quick look was over is
That's telling.
I have
enough,
100%
is
of
enough.
that game, and I
Yeah.
want to play all the DLC. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot more than
I think,
one of
I
those.
think,
I think.
like you can say the parts that it uses are all familiar, but I think it uses them in a way that is effective that most other games are not.
In the way the different worlds add new things, like the
Yeah.
ice levels
Yeah.
and the lava stuff and everything. Like I think it's great. It is not top 3 surprise,
I think that's fair.
but it's great.
I'm glad you guys had a good time with it. Yeah, I'm with Jeff. It doesn't really do much. For
doesn't
me,
hang.
But
Yeah. Like I said, it's like they turned a Mario Party mini game into a full game.
Yeah, but it's like the only good one in a Mario Party.
I guess
And
to me,
fleshed
What
out.
about that one where you shake up the sodas?
That's
If
that's
someone
a
made
pretty
that
good one.
into a 3-hour 4-player game,
VR.
maybe you'd have something.
yeah.
I
a
guess
good one.
to me, Overcooked doesn't feel as exploitative as a lot of that other stuff does. Like, we made this, 2D side-scrolling 4-player beat 'em up
Yeah,
thing.
you're right.
It doesn't yet
there are
again.
a ton of those that are like incredibly
one level.
half-baked.
Yeah.
The two things about not to go on
Undercooked.
forever about this game, but the two things for me are it's collaborative in a way that most local co-op game or multiplayer games are like purely competitive, and like at a certain point I get sick of like Towerfall-esque, just like shooting
Yeah.
battles with people all the time. So like a game where you can work together with people to accomplish a thing is a lot of fun.
And it communicates
and-
the way to work together in like an effective way.
On top of that,
everyone knows how to build a burger.
like the number of sort of like input points like around the map allow for like a level of like optimization that I think is really satisfying.
It's a
Yeah,
puzzle game.
They never make it so there's just like, okay, we got 4 people and 4 things to do. So you're just the guy that's cooking
Right.
the meat. You're
Right.
the
Yeah.
guy. It's always just enough to make it like you have to have someone running dishes while they're also doing.
So that's what I
something
mean.
else.
There is a high ceiling for people to work together to find a way to more efficiently do the task.
It's a great plate spinning game.
Like that's
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what makes it fun to
It
me.
definitely scratches like a production itch
Yes,
for me of
yes.
like, okay, how do we
Totally.
make this more efficient?
Yeah.
Like feeling your team get better at doing the different tasks faster is really satisfying.
Yeah,
But
totally.
But it doesn't stay on here.
No.
Okay.
Event Zero, I think, was a great surprise, but in that way of when I was playing it, like, why aren't more people talking about Event Zero? Like, this is a really good game. I don't think it goes out of its way to blow minds. It's just one of those things that came out of nowhere.
It's quietly cool.
It's very
Yeah.
quietly
Yeah.
cool, and I like games where you can type to a computer and ask how it's feeling.
that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
How was it feeling?
It depends. Some days I was having a rough time. He thought I betrayed it, and then I had to apologize to him. But what do you think, Drew?
Yeah, it's a cool game. Probably doesn't hang on this list, but
No.
surprising that they made that text parsing work and fun to do in a video game.
Yeah.
I want to see more of that. I love that stuff.
Stay tuned for Event 1.
Okay.
King's Quest.
Oh, I was gonna. Well, sure. Yeah, we can talk about that. They rebooted King's Quest really well, like way better than I would have expected, especially because the developer had only ever made one game that I was aware of, and it was nothing like an adventure game.
I haven't enjoyed adventure games in quite some time.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed this.
Yeah,
Have they been, so how many episodes
it's
of
out.
this are out?
It's out. It's done.
Okay.
I don't know if the epilogue came out yet or not. Vinny's vexing epilogue.
The epilogue that they at some point didn't include in like the season pass. If you
Vinny's
bought it.
got a bone to pick.
Like if you bought episode 1 and then we're like, I'm gonna buy the rest of these things. You didn't get the epilogue unless you bought them all together.
But that's not.
I don't know if that's
that
true
can't be the
anymore.
case now
Yeah.
because I got the first like 3 episodes piecemeal, and then I
Yeah.
got the season pass for the last 2, and then I got the epilogue.
I'm surprised they made an entertaining King's Quest game.
It's like it's
Finally.
it's they
Finally
they
figured it
out
out.
Telltale significantly to me. Like I think it's the writing is way sharper and funnier and wittier in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
They certainly made a better adventure game.
Yeah,
for sure.
the puzzles feel a little more classic adventure game without being like
Yeah.
like there's an inventory but not a 30 slot inventory. Like you do pick up some things and use them on other things, but it's streamlined enough that it
minimized,
doesn't
yeah.
feel
Sure,
yeah.
There's enough, there's enough traditional stuff in there that scratches my adventure game itches.
Yeah.
But like in some good ways and bad, where it's got like backtracking and some of that stuff, which
Yeah.
I don't appreciate. But
I feel like they keep it to a decent minimum.
How much of King's Quest came out this calendar year?
I'd have to look at the
I think only the first episode came out last year.
the second episode may have barely snuck out like literally like a
Possibly,
couple
yeah.
weeks before the end of last year.
Yeah.
I think it might have been episodes 3 through 5 in the epilogue for this year.
I don't think it stays on here. But
Maybe you're probably right, but I think parts of it are really funny. Like I think it's really clever, and they
okay.
use wallet.
yeah,
I
I like it a lot.
Yeah.
But like I've been trying to keep up with the adventure games for a while,
Yeah,
and like
you play a lot more of them than I do.
like it's a really beautiful version of King's Quest.
It's got good art.
But I don't have the nostalgia pull for.
So that's
King's Quest.
that's probably the other reason that I'm so for it is that I like those old King's Quest games, and it's very obviously made by people with like a really deep affection for those games, and it's like a nice like survey of those games, in that it takes place over a long period of time.
I've only played the first 2 episodes, but you can't die, right?
What do you mean permanently?
Yeah.
No, there are all kinds of ways to
Are
die.
there? You can
Yeah.
you can have.
Oh,
the
dude,
dragon
there
can
are
get
tons
you.
of
Yeah,
ways,
okay.
like tons of like
You
crazy
can't
death
make it
animations.
to the end of the game and have left an item at the beginning of the game and have to restart the
I
entire
fucking
game.
hope not. That would
Then it's
be
not a
very
King's Quest game.
That would be very King's Quest 5. But Yeah, like the death animation, and remember like the
Yes,
the
you're
narration
right.
around
Yeah.
them, because the whole thing
Right.
is like
that's
is-
not how it went. Right, it was very.
the whole thing is like
clever.
old King Graham on his practically on his deathbed, like telling the tales to his granddaughter, and so like he narrates things as you do them in a lot of cases. Like even when you die, he'll narrate like
Yeah,
you know.
it looks great.
Like you'll die on like you picked one of two paths and died, and he was like, "Well, obviously I didn't take that one, or I would have,
Yeah.
and then you respawn and go again."
it's got a Prince of Persia. Thing
Yeah,
to it,
that stuff's fun.
Not that I think it
If
belongs.
you make the death choice over and over again, does he eventually go nuts?
I don't know. I didn't try that.
You're telling it to your granddaughter or whatever,
Yeah.
and I think she's like, "Grandpa, like, get it together."
Like there's some good attitude and personality around stuff like that. Like it's really cleverly designed. Also, episode 1 uses Wallace Shawn like incredibly well. Which is super awesome.
Not that it belongs on this list or anything, but I would say Mafia 3 also did a really good job with that shit, where when you die, like they will like the documentary people will show up and are like, no, wait, that's how that could. It couldn't have gone that way.
Yeah, that is pretty
And there's
cool.
even one shot where it's like this old FBI dude, and the second he does it, he just sort of like his brain just fucking seizes up or something. Like it's this bizarre shot. I don't know what they were going for there, but anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I guess King's Quest probably not going to make it, but let's leave it for a minute.
I think Watch Dogs too, and I haven't played it yet, but like that seems pretty surprising.
Yeah,
that
That
was.
ended up being a huge surprise based on what they were showing, based on what
talk
Watch
about
Dogs
turnaround,
1
like, wait,
was.
Yeah.
Well, definitely compared to Watch Dogs 1, but do you think what they were showing was
Oh
bad?
yeah, it looked corny as
it was the
shit.
tone, the
Like
tone stuff.
all their kind of visual style. Like seeing that game at E3, I just kind of came away from it going like, fucking
I
whatever.
groaned actively.
Like again, I haven't played it, but the part where you guys keep telling me to stop bagging on that dude with the emoji
Yeah, the
face.
fucking
Yeah.
emoji
It's like,
sunglasses
it's all right.
is like so eye
yeah,
rolling.
that character
like, lay
should have
off.
sucked
Oh,
so bad.
You mean Wrench?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
yeah,
Wrench,
sorry.
one of the best characters of the year.
There are some things about that story I think that they could have done a lot better, and I think some parts
I think
of it
they
are a
fumbled
little
the ending.
exhausting, and I think that like their attempt to lay a sick burn on Petaluma is quite frankly a little fucked up. But
Novato, you're fine with them burning.
fuck Novato.
Yeah, all right.
What was the Petaluma burn?
There's a sandal in the game that is called the Petaluma. and
right,
it's like
right.
a Birkenstock ass-looking thing.
This is
Okay.
Birkenstock factory in Novato.
Okay.
It's in the nether region between Novato and Petaluma.
That ain't Petaluma.
Just saying.
I mean, the only place where this would break down for me is the fact that it's like a pretty standard open world game.
Yeah,
And, like didn't innovate much there
That's
over
the
first
thing
game.
though is I feel like they actually make that something you want to play, and
Yeah.
it is a standard open world game, but like the tools at your disposal are interesting by virtue of you having the drone and the RC
Right.
car.
Right.
Like that stuff makes stealth a much different thing than you think it is.
You can cause a lot of really fun chaos with just like messing around with the cars and, taking over forklifts and driving them into restricted areas. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of fun hacking stuff you can do that other open world games don't really have that theme and that ability.
It makes good on the promise of the first game in a
Yes.
way that, honestly, I just didn't know if they were capable of doing.
I didn't think so. Like, I played maybe 3 hours of the first one, and I was like, okay, I'm done with this. And now I'm working on the platinum for 2. Like, I beat it, and I'm still playing it. Like, yeah, I think it's a huge surprise.
And
Yeah.
I think you can contrast that, Brad, with like Mafia 3 going by the numbers on open world stuff a little more, and like that sounds to me like more standard open world stuff.
Oh yeah, no, like Mafia is exactly the game they sold it as. Like that's why I didn't put it. Like I was maybe surprised a little bit by how much I enjoyed it, but like it is the game they told you it was from the second they announced that thing.
Well, I just mean in terms of like if you're going to accuse something of going by the open world playbook. Seems like Mafia 3 went by that, where Watch Dogs 2 sounds like it might do that, but it's fun to beat.
I think they're able
Yeah.
to play within the margins more than Mafia 3
And
does.
I think they have just more modern and interesting characters than most games.
Yeah.
Like they do pretty well with the writing and stuff like that in a way that I just didn't expect.
I mean, that is a big surprise for me for Watch_dogs.
Dogs.
Watch
Dogs.
Dogs. Where like so much of that stuff wanted me to run away screaming.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I saw it at E3 and came away from it going like that. Nah, it just didn't look great. Then Dan went and saw it a few months ago here now.
Yeah, that's
And
the
then
thing they had
he
here.
came back. We looked at that footage and I was like, actually, there might be something to this.
Yeah.
And then getting it in and going like, oh, actually, it's not perfect. That game's not like game of the year or anything crazy like
it's not
that.
peerless, but
when you think about what that previous game was and how that game looked, I was incredibly surprised by the quality of the writing and all that sort of stuff. As well as the tools at your disposal actually being fun to use. Instead of just looking at some of their gameplay demos and looking at that and going this stuff doesn't even seem like it's like that cool, but it actually is that cool.
Yep.
I think I would put that on this list.
I think it's a strong contender, but Stardew.
Well, before we get to that, let's talk about Thumper.
Let's do it.
I feel like every single time I heard or saw anything about Thumper, it was like high praise. It was like it looked awesome. Like I don't feel like
they came up with a cool term for their game that actually paid off in the end.
Yeah, I feel for me it was less that it came out of left field and more I was just surprised by how much I liked it. Like that, I say again, I still think that is one of the best rhythm games in years. I think what they do both with visual aesthetic and sound and tightness of gameplay is the way it all works in concert is pretty fucking spectacular. But that said, like you said, there was a lot of good buzz around that game coming into it. So I don't necessarily think it's the best surprise. I will say, just again, like I did not expect to come away thinking like that is a top 3 video game for me. That was not what I was expecting to get out of that, and that's what I did.
That's impressive.
We don't have a best Steam store page description, but this would win it. I have it here. Thumper is a rhythm violence, classic rhythm action, blistering speed, and brutal physicality. Oh, Thumper is.
Accurate.
You are a
Facts.
space beetle. Brave the hellish void and confront a mechanical giant head from the future.
also accurate.
All these things are true.
Yeah, but then it just makes it not a surprise. They just telegraph all that stuff right on the page.
Yeah. Give away the twist.
So yeah, I don't think Thumper stays on this list. I think my feeling is that Watch Dogs 2 and Stardew are the two we're talking about here.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to take Super Hot off of here unless anybody thinks it'll make it up
It's
into
the same.
this 3.
I mean, it's the same reason why I think Thumper doesn't belong in here. Again, the buzz I had heard around that game was almost universally positive going in.
Yeah, I think the thing I would say about Super Hot is if this was like best twist or like best like game doing a thing that you're like, oh fuck, like there's stuff in there. Actually, if we get the best moment or whatever, there are probably like
we'll have
5
that
things from
conversation.
Super Hot. That are on that
Like
list.
for me, Super Hot is like best like, yeah, you fucking did it. Like, good job.
Yeah.
Like you fucking the whole time just
yeah,
stayed on it.
yep.
And that's to me what was so surprising about. Like I just kept expecting Super Hot to not be as awesome as the last thing I just played, and it was.
Yeah.
So good on it. Stardew Valley.
Now's your chance,
Yeah.
Dan.
I think with something like Watch Dogs, I'm going to compare it to Stardew here. I don't think it's all that
Very similar.
surprising that okay, so Ubisoft is a huge company and they wanted Watch Dogs to be this huge new IP, obviously. It was a huge part of that E3 when they revealed it, one of the first next-gen games. So the idea that the first one wasn't super highly regarded and they threw just a ton of resources and did a bunch of focus testing or whatever, found out what people didn't like about the first one and then changed it and made it significantly better.
Like they did with all the Assassin's Creed games.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like the
Or
Ubisoft
Far
track
Cry.
record for correcting course is
Yes,
so bad that like
You're making the case.
Assassin's Creed 1 to 2, that is kind of a pretty accurate parallel for Watch Dogs.
Yeah.
I'll also say that just on a pure hearsay basis, I have heard some things about what Watch Dogs 2 looked like when it was earlier in development, and let's say that they even course corrected pretty fucking hard away from that because I heard some pretty rotten things about what that game first looked like.
But whatever the case, they were able to turn this thing around and make it so much better and bigger than the first one. Whereas Stardew Valley is a game that I don't think was on any of our radars, and I know not a lot of us played a ton of it besides me, but like I did not hear of that game until it was on Steam, and it was like, hey, Dan, you want to check this out for a quick look? And I was like, yeah, I'll check this thing out. I never played Harvest Moon, but sure. And for a game made by one dude to be that robust, for that game to be the game I played almost twice as much as any other game this year, a game I had never heard of, and I have no love or nostalgia for Harvest Moon or anything, and then one guy made this huge, robust game, great soundtrack, just a million things to do, tons of replay value. Like, I think it's so surprising for that game to be as fully featured and solid as it is.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think Stardew Valley kind of stands on the shoulders of giants in a lot of ways. Like he definitely has his inspirations and made his thing, but like that thing, there is a lot to it. I don't think I like that game.
Yeah.
and I've liked other games that that probably were inspiration for this. So like in some ways, I'm disappointed that I don't like it more because I wish I did, but there are just too many things about it. That
I don't think it's for everyone.
I don't want to mess with.
But
I don't think Watch Dogs 2 is for everyone either.
No, it's not. And again, I love what they did with Watch Dogs 2. I just think that what Eric Barone did with Stardew Valley is far more surprising than what Ubisoft did with Watch Dogs 2.
It's a really impressive achievement, and I'm kind of with Jeff in that I wish I liked it a little more. I don't have any active dislike of it, and I think it is incredibly impressive for what it is. I think that, as far as indie surprises this year, that's the one. That's the one that just sort of came out and just knocked everyone off their asses in a way that no one was expecting.
It's definitely like this year's Undertale.
Yeah.
And
Really?
and it's
In terms of just like cultural impact.
People were very into that.
It's
game.
been a very big
And
release.
even in terms of like sales numbers, like it was the low price indie game made by one person that fucking blew up this year.
And
coming to Xbox One this month.
the communities are so active and positive, and that's kind of a surprising thing in this day and age. And it's been something really special, I think. I don't think I've ever seen a game like this to where, when I go to a subreddit for it or whatever, everyone's just really positive, really loves the game, and the creator is constantly like adding really new big updates to the game, and communicating with the fans in a good way.
He's done right by it.
Yeah, it's kind of the anti-No Man's Sky in every way, from the community to the creator involvement and communication.
And also the lead up, for sure, like the total lack of lead up for that game.
Yeah. No hype whatsoever, and then he just delivered on this huge, awesome game. Easily the most surprising game of the year for me.
I think the case for it to be in the top 3 is strong enough to where I'm willing to put Watch Dogs 2 aside. I think
okay with that.
I think Watch Dogs 2 is definitely a very surprising thing, and good on them for fucking turning that ship around. But I think Stardew is just much more like impactful thing.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm okay with that.
I've highlighted Watch Dogs 2 and King's Quest. As I press delete, I'm just going to reiterate King's Quest is way better than it had any right to be.
That's fair.
And Doom should win this category.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
I think Doom.
Yeah.
I think there's a decent case you can make for Hitman. Especially
it's actually a harder decision than it ever seemed like it would be.
Yeah, like I think the thing with Hitman is that so many of its different little hooks and systems all work way better than you think they would. Whereas with Doom, we're talking about the campaign in Doom.
Actually, I don't know.
Yes.
Man.
Hitman
I guess Doom should win. Now that I think about it.
But look, that campaign is spectacular.
Hitman takes so many chances across the board and actually nails so many of them.
I guess where I would really lean Doom is just how many things were working against that thing being any good at all, much less like one of the best shooter campaigns ever.
Like a full half of Doom works against Doom.
Whereas with
I don't care. Like honestly, like that campaign is long enough in comparison to other games in the genre that I don't even care what else is in the package. Like the campaign is so good that
I'm not using that to undermine it in this category, but I do think you can't necessarily ignore that there is a full package there. But I do think the campaign is good enough to overshadow both the rest of Doom and the other games on this list.
I think for surprise, I'll make the case for Hitman in that the format for the episodic stuff was surprising to me, just how perfectly that fit that whole style of game. Where like I think if they had made it one game, it would have been worse for it. Where I think you got just enough out to want to take a break, come back, and be pleasantly surprised with the briefing. Like they packaged it in a nice way too, where like you get these little briefings, you get these targets, and it
was like you were a real hitman. You
like I'm a real hitman.
But there's also a couple of key differences, which is that even as an Absolution somewhat apologist, I will agree. I think that's the only truly bad game, or at least that's how people seem to perceive it. In that series, there's a pedigree there with IO and that series to where I think there's an expectation of some quality at the very least. Whereas Doom was fashioned out of the ashes of whatever post John Carmack id was. Like nobody really knew what the pedigree of that studio even was anymore.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like, id IPs have been outsourced and, there's all kinds of weird stuff happening over
there was no indications. Yeah, like, think about that. The last 2 games that id Software made were Doom 3 and Rage. There was no indication that this thing was going to be anything special.
And also, Doom does not feel like another game with a Doom label on it. Like, it's not like doesn't feel like they made some other shooter and then tied Doom into it. Like, through its core, it feels like somehow, they
It's what
very
machine.
surprising.
It's what Machine Games did to Wolfenstein, but arguably in some ways even better.
Yeah, I totally agree. They took Doom to
definitely,
places that you never thought it could go.
I'm A-okay with Doom winning.
Yeah,
Best
me too.
surprise.
Also with
that is my
Hitman
pick.
though, none of us at this table, I think, are huge Hitman fans. Like I like
Oh,
Blood
I
Money.
like that series a lot.
I like it, and I thought Blood Money was really good, but like I wasn't like a huge Hitman fan.
Yeah, I
and I
wasn't
think
either.
a lot of us weren't at all. And like it turned into the game that we may have put more hours into on the site than anything else. this year,
Definitely, in
which is
terms of
insane.
site-
Like who would have guessed that?
Definitely in
Yeah.
terms of video on the site, easily.
Yeah, and we're all enthusiastic about it after being either not really Hitman fans at all or just kind of moderate fans.
Yeah. I mean, that there is a really strong case for Hitman.
It is. It's a close one.
Agreed.
But I think I still lean Doom
think
just
Doom-
for how bottomed out my expectations were
Doom,
for that
Doom
thing.
had way more working against it than Hitman did.
I mean, it's a really good single-player shooter campaign, and
Yeah.
that's very
Like even
surprising.
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
a feat. Like
Yeah.
absent any other context, like that alone is
I
impressive.
mean, on some like it's for that to not even be the only good shooter campaign this year is
Yeah.
also like it's a really insane year for shooters. Put that on the list. Just fucking shooter campaigns. They're back.
And then just all like the actual narrative in like the codex stuff
Yeah.
in Doom.
Yeah.
Like,
That
it's
stuff's really well written. Yeah.
For it to be any good at all.
The characters
yeah,
of
Yeah.
Doom.
totally.
Yeah.
I won't argue Doom, but I mean, I think they're very strong. This is a strong
Yeah,
3.
it's,
I
it's,
think.
it's really tough.
I think all of these games absolutely belong on here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I could almost gin up a case for Titanfall to have been on this list for discussion purposes, but I don't think it makes top 3 because that campaign.
The campaign is really
It's real
surprising,
cool.
but the multiplayer is pretty much what you expect out of that
Totally.
game,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it had a pedigree coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think the thing that just edged it a little for me is like somebody telling me like Doom is fucking amazing this year is more of a what?
Like, how?
And somebody telling me that Hitman is fucking amazing to me this year would be like, oh yeah, all right, I gotta go check
Oh,
that
that's
out.
cool. They brought it back.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
oh, I'm glad they made good on that.
That seemed like a feasible thing.
yes.
Okay, and Doom did not.
Not like a record
Right.
scratch. Like fucking wait, what?
Right.
I don't believe you.
You would
Yeah,
have
yeah.
had to show me, force me into a chair, put the controller or keyboard into my hand to understand how a Doom could be so amazing. And like, I'm not a big first-person shooter fan these days. I kind of used to be when there was novelty in it, and I feel like Doom brought a lot of that novelty.
In some
Yeah.
ways, like
Yeah.
the existence of Wolfenstein kind of like made Doom more of a surprise because like I had the experience of like people going like, you need to play Wolfenstein. And I sat down and played Wolfenstein and went like, yeah, this is good.
the
Like,
newest,
yeah,
one,
the newest one. Like it didn't necessarily like fucking blow my mind. So in some ways, like even that game being like what it was didn't soften Doom's impact at all. It was just
And
Doom
even
is so good.
even for someone like me who honestly just does not have that much nostalgia for old Doom or any of that stuff, for it, like it bowled me over, I would say roughly equivalent to the way all you Doom fanboys over there were as well.
That's the thing though, is like I played a fuckload of Doom because I had a computer when Doom came out.
Right.
But like Doom 3 I thought was terrible. And by the end of Doom 2, I felt like I was done with Doom for a lot of years.
and now you're back.
I'm more of a Quake.
So
guy.
it's yeah, totally same. But the thing about Doom is that it evokes old Doom. It is not devoted.
Yeah, it's not a
to
purely
old
nostalgia
Doom.
piece by any stretch.
Yeah,
Yep.
and it evokes it in all the right ways, in ways that you thought were not possible, in ways that you thought would be terrible if they did it. Like they do all that stuff and nail it, and it's fucking crazy.
Yep. So I think Doom wins this
Yeah,
category.
yeah,
Yeah.
That sounds pretty decisive at this point.
Y'all should have played
All right.
more Nitro Plus Blasters.
That game is better than I thought it would be.
I don't know. I
Should've
heard
sent
it's,
a
I
car.
heard it's not even one of the 5 best fighting games of the year. That's what was going around.
Briefly thought about forcing a best fighting category into this.
I pitched it briefly.
Hey, we still got
We're not doing genre awards. We're not doing
we still
that.
got 2 days left. We'll discuss it. But for now, that brings us to a close on day 3. We've got all of our winners. They are as follows. Best remaster is Day of the Tentacle Remastered with Odin Sphere Life Rasir.
Yep.
There you go.
And The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD. Following up. Best fake computer is Hackmud. Event Zero and Quadrilateral Cowboy are also pretty good fake computers. Please stop shipping unfinished games on discs. Please, we beg you. Also, stop making bad PC ports or not sending out early games for review. Thanks. And the best surprises, Doom, Hitman, and Stardew Valley were also very good surprises.
Hell yeah.
That's it. That's day 3. Thanks for sticking with us as we bang out all this stuff and yell at each other a lot.
I don't have
and
anything
so on.
else going on. So
Yeah. We'll be back tomorrow with another round of categories and podcasts and videos and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see you then.